Zane, who goes by the graffiti handle Slice, met Tisselo last summer at an annoyingly self-aware dive bar where the talentless artist caught Tisselo's eye with his cliched sleeve tattoos of trite Japanese imagery and the fact that he was wearing a winter hat indoors in the middle of June.
His art is really just the absolute worst. I think we're going to get married someday.
And now for This Week in Tech, brought to you by LG. An excited groom sends text messages to his buddies during his bride's vows, and a collection of VHS tapes are held onto for one more year. In other news, a burglar makes sure to crack the glass on a family portrait before leaving. There's nothing in the employee handbook about groping dead co-workers, an employee says, and a report finds that nobody's heard from David Blaine in a while, so somebody should probably check to see if he died in one of those things. Mere seconds have passed, yet we feel as though we've known you 1,000 lifetimes. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
And we will be talking about all kinds of different things tonight, but I give out that number because you can call that number to bring up anything that's on your mind. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be news. I think I should start pointing that out more often. Your opinions on anything, something you've been thinking about, maybe you want somebody else's opinion or any other caller's opinion, not just ours. That number is 603-283-6160. Oh, and I can also give really good relationship advice because I have the best husband ever. And I guess Mr. Penguin has a good boyfriend. No, I'm just kidding. We can both give you relationship advice. So 603-283-6160 is the number. And the story we're starting off with tonight, this is from the Wall Street Journal. And this woman says how a sex trafficking law made my job as a sex worker more dangerous. And I thought this was an interesting article in general because a lot of times people think that they're helping and they can be so easily swayed into backing different laws because they hear the word sex trafficking and they think of like somebody who was like, innocent walking down the street and then they were grabbed and put into a bus and then made to do sexual acts for money, like slavery. And often that term sex trafficking is used to blanket so many more things than just that. And in America, it's illegal to do anything sexual except record it for money. Isn't that true? Except maybe in like some states, in some counties, in some states, technically.
You mean otherwise it would be prostitution, and the prostitution is illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true in a lot of cases. Yeah, at least in New Hampshire, it is prostitution's illegal unless you record it. In which case it becomes like you're a filmographer or something, and then somehow it's legal. And I guess that kind of works for like from a perspective of you don't want to ban porn in New Hampshire, but we don't really have a porn industry. But I guess maybe we do. Maybe there's producers here. Maybe people who do it on camera or something for money. But probably not. I don't know. That would be an interesting question. You would think that something that you do in your own private bedroom or whatever would be like not an issue, like no matter what the story was, but as long as somebody wasn't being paid for it, I guess. But I don't know.
It doesn't become someone else's business just because you're getting paid for it, Like, it doesn't become my business if you want to have sex.
Well, not even a third party, right?
Yeah, like a third party.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Yeah.
And I figured you agreed with that too. I just wasn't sure if that's what you were saying there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so weird because it's like, okay, And I don't really understand like the law in New Hampshire, in detail. Because like you think if you were paying somebody else for sex, that's prostitution. But how does the filming part then sort of like eliminate that part of it, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of a silly, magical, legal mumbo jumbo.
As long as you're filming it, it's not prostitution. Like under New Hampshire law, I mean that seems crazy. But that is my understanding of it. But yeah.
Co-host, I mean, nobody. He is just in another state right now. I really hope that if he comes back to New Hampshire anytime soon, that he'll be on the show. I just haven't like brought that up in a while, so I figured I should say that.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be back. He comes and goes every once in a while.
Yeah,
for various reasons.
He told me he would definitely come back for like PorcFest at the least, maybe PorcFest and Liberty Forum. But so I just brought him up to say he used to always say how ridiculous it is. He'd say like, all of this is illegal. I bring a willing woman to my house and I have sex with her and give her money for the service and then she leaves. That's illegal. But if I do all of those same things but with a video camera in the room recording it, it just became legal. Like, that's how you know that laws aren't based on morality, like the morality of the issue, the morality of the action, etc. It's not based on that. It's just the whims of tyrants, and they can write down whatever they want because it just doesn't make any sense. I have no clue why it's legal to do the same exact thing if you're recording. We've kind of belabored this point, but it just shows how ridiculous legal land is. There, up is down and left is right, and obviously nothing morally changes if you're also inviting other people to watch. Like, it just...
Yeah, I mean, sex laws in general are so arbitrary and dumb. It's like, there's places where you, like, I'm trying to think like the age of consent. Just, I know this is a terrible one to get into, but age of consent law is like it's 16 in New Hampshire, but in Japan I think it's like 21 or something ridiculous.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, and it's like, and then people are like, child. It's like, okay, well, if you're gonna say child, well then you're talking about 20-year-olds too. Like,
whoa.
I mean, at least in some countries. So like, is it like, I don't know, like it just seems so crazy. Some of these laws, it's just like, okay, like, I mean, I understand that people want to protect, children and such, but like, it's like you're talking about sexually active individuals, not, prepubescent children in the case of, those types of laws. But just in general, like, there's so many laws, like, just in the, like when it comes to prostitution or, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but like, we're just like pornographic laws. Like, some countries, it's like, if you just think about it for a moment, what do you consider pornography? Because I can guarantee you, it's, if you go to certain other countries, that will not be pornographic, and yet if you go to other countries, like, if like, for example, a woman in Saudi Arabia, if she shows a little bit of her face, that's pornography. I mean, from their perspective. I mean, are we going to start banning women in the United States from, just because some subset of the United States population believes that's pornography? I mean, it's literally, it's just completely arbitrary.
Yep, arbitrary is a great word for it because, like we were saying with the initial situation, it's nothing changing but just one little thing here, one little thing there, making it different. Like, for example, in Utah, I knew a couple, teenage couple, and if they would have had sex with each other for the first time 2 months later...
Completely legal. Yep.
No, 2 months.
Oh.
It's actually weird. If they would have had sex with each other 2 months later than they did.
Oh, right.
It would have been illegal because the girl would have been 2 instead of 1 year older than the boy.
Right.
And the boy was like not supposed to have sex at 15, but could at 16. I don't remember exactly.
Well, another one that's
Girl's
messed
birthday
up
came first, basically.
is if a girl is like, and there's different ages for consent in different states for the male and female too.
Utah is one where it's like boys not till 16 and girls not till 15. So girls, like, they mature faster. So I think that's right. It could be 16 to 17, but yeah.
It all seems so silly to me, just defining it that way. It's like there's different ages. People mature at different ages anyway.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah.
Anyway, but I know in a lot of cases where there's a lot of arrests that are made of like 17-year-old boys having or 17-year-olds turning 18. I guess I shouldn't use the word boy, but guys being arrested for having sex with their partner who she is just slightly younger, but they're basically the same age, but because he turns 18, has sex with her, had been having sex with her illegally, well, now all of a sudden it's criminal because he's 18 and she's 17, and it's like, wait a minute, what? Like, how is
you
that?
You shouldn't be knowing about what these teenagers are doing anyway. That's like
right?
the weirdest part. It's like in the maybe even as early or recent as 1800s, where there was laws against things like sodomy or specific bedroom acts. It's like, you, government, shouldn't ever find out or know what specific acts people are doing in the room. Like, how did they enforce that stuff?
The law is so hypocritical too. I mean, if you look at the rulings, it's like the reason that like sodomy isn't illegal now is because of a court ruling that says something to the effect of what happens in your own bedroom, private bedroom, is nobody else's business. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, okay, well then how do you prosecute a case involving prostitution or, like so many other crimes, like, or underage sex? Like if somebody is having, well, I guess not underage sex, but like, I guess it would be like some sort of child molestation case, right? How do you prosecute something like that if you actually follow that law? But the law will only ever be applied to sodomy specifically, and it's like, but their logic is like, there's no logic in it.
I think
there's a lack of logic in it, because it's like you're saying one thing, it's nobody else's business, but then at the same time it's like, well, wait a minute, you're basically spying on people, in one set of circumstances, but then you're saying it's not okay in another set of circumstances. Like, I don't know, this doesn't make much sense.
I think there is a part of the puzzle that makes it quote unquote logical. It makes me understand why they do it, but it's still bad. It's that, if you're having sex and getting money for it, the government's not going to get a piece of that. But if you are having sex and filming it and putting it on the internet for money, then that, like Pornhub or whatever, is going to be paying their taxes. Right.
And that kind of makes sense, actually, like, because it has nothing to do with morality. It's completely got to do with the dollars.
Exactly.
They want to be able to tax it, and if they can tax it, good. If they can't tax it, bad.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I think. It would be pretty hard to force taxation on prostitutes unless they just, how many of them would really willingly go and pay taxes up for it?
I mean, you could say the same thing about like tipping, with waitresses,
and they're already
stuff.
mad about that.
I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily be any harder to collect from prostitutes if it was legalized than it is to collect it from from waitresses. Tips from taxing tips of waitresses, right?
I agree. It's not any harder, but they're realizing they're losing that war.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's actually it's kind of an entertaining argument, but that would probably win over the House and the Senate. Is we're missing out on this huge lucrative tax base of because we have not legalized it completely. It means we are not getting the tax revenue from it, and we should be. And I'd actually argue to keep it illegal rather than tax it, but don't get me wrong. And I'm against taxes, but at least when it's illegal, you can be guaranteed the government's not getting those taxes.
Yeah, but the thing about making it illegal, even, I'm not sure what's worse. Prosecuting people, ruining people's lives because of prostitution busts that still happen pretty often.
So I think the way to solve this problem is to argue for a reduction of the penalty. Yeah. Turn it into weed. Decriminalize it and turn it into an offense of, it's a $50 fine if we catch you, right? And nobody's going to be, no police department is going to spend their resources on going after, Johns and prostitutes if it's a $50 fine that they get them for. It's just not worth the time and effort.
That's so true, because they're still putting people in prison for it, and there's for-profit prisons.
Oh yeah,
and
that's another thing, right? It's not necessarily just the government benefiting from tax revenue, but it's also the prison industrial complex that benefits from a lot of these kind of charges. It's like it's so ridiculous, but
it's ridiculous to me when cops think that they're proving that their job is so necessary and they're doing such a good job by posting pictures on the internet of like a bunch of like women from massage parlors who got busted. It's just like, really, like, you're making the streets so much better by getting all these kind of older ladies who were doing massages, maybe sometimes with happy endings, off the streets. Wow, what a waste of tax dollars, honestly.
It doesn't make anybody safer.
Doesn't make anyone safer.
I mean, the way to make it safer, right? I mean, ultimately, prostitution is not necessarily the safest career path, but the way to make that safer is to legalize it and then make sure that there is plenty of they're doing using protection and condoms and things of that nature to reduce the risk of transmission of diseases and things like that. Because ultimately, that's the only real babies and disease, spreading of disease. Those are really the only two things that may be
risked.
Yeah, a risk, I would say. Everything else is kind of like, okay.
Even mental health of them, well, they're taking that risk themselves. People should be allowed to take their own risk, you know?
Yeah, sure. And maybe there's an argument to be made also on the other hand, too. I guess maybe there's a third argument, but this is really only because it's illegal now, and that is you end up with... I want to say Johns, not Johns.
Johns is the word for like a man that buys a prostitute.
Right.
Pimp.
Pimp.
The pimp.
Yeah. And if you legalize it, then you get rid of the pimp, because then all of a sudden you have websites like Craigslist and Backpage, which, by the way, Craigslist was bullied out of their prostitution section, and the Backpage they were actually arrested and convicted. They actually were found not guilty on multiple state courts, and then they charged them at the federal level. And
they arrested the CEO of Craigslist. Or did you say
not
Backpages?
The Craigslist? This is Backpage that they arrested. But
never heard of that.
No, Craigslist, which is like the newspaper ads, back in the day, that's what Craigslist and Backpage were. And Craigslist basically shut down the hookups section, right?
Yeah, I never heard of anyone doing this in my real life, but I still see tweets where people are saying stuff like, "I can't believe people were really getting hookups off Craigslist. Like, you would just go there and see." And why not, I guess? But it just seems like crazy to us now, because now you think of it as a place to find like a free table only, I'm not saying, it's immoral. I'm saying it's like shocking to me. It's like,
I don't know. I'm not sure if I would consider it shocking. I mean,
imagine if people were like, wow, people used to find hookups on Free Talk Live, call with the calls or something. I mean, it would just be shocking.
There's a history of so do you know where Backpage got its name from?
No, I actually don't know.
So Backpage got its name, I believe, and if anybody wants to call and correct me on this, but
back alleys?
No. So back in the day, the back pages of certain magazines would have numbers to call for women for services, right?
Oh.
And so this was a common thing, and it's like, and they basically when it went online, somehow it became a crime. I don't know, but that's basically that's the kind of the absurdity of it. We've become the United States, culturally, or at least some portion of it, has become more conservative and managed to get its way as far as criminalizing stuff that used to be ordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Tinder's not getting in trouble.
Yeah, which kind of makes it all the more insane. It's like you're going to blame Backpage. And the thing about Backpage was they actually worked with law enforcement to go after trafficking. When there was actual trafficking or trafficking of children or whatever, they'd actually work with law enforcement. So to then go after them, because what you ultimately are doing is you're really only going after them, not because of trafficking of children or trafficking of any type. It's because people are offering services on Backpage that you don't like.
Yeah.
And rather than target the individuals who may or may not be committing a crime, you're going to just the easier target is Backpage itself.
The website. Yeah.
And that's just really, really messed up. I mean,
it just annoys me when people have any kind of moral belief, and instead of just wanting to live by it themselves, they want to force it on others.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with people having... This is the interesting thing. I don't have a problem with people having moral beliefs or even differing moral beliefs.
Exactly.
The problem is when you start to get into, believing that it's okay to pass laws to regulate people's morals.
Yeah, do you think kidnapping is okay? Because that's what the cops are going to do to the people who are doing stuff you don't like. But the thing is, they don't care.
Yeah. I think the line in my mind is that... It's a very, very philosophical libertarian perspective here. It's that it crosses the line. It's okay to pass a law to the degree that there is some sort of non-consensual violence, right? And that's the line. And the problem is most laws, that's not what they're doing. They're just making a blanket ban on this or that. And it's like, I don't have a problem going after people who traffic other people, because assuming the trafficking is being defined as taking somebody against their will and forcing them into sex or prostitution or whatever, right? There's nothing wrong with going after people, who are doing that. The problem is that you're not doing that. You're going after anybody who is even remotely connected to the sex industry, even though most of the sex work is actually, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly legitimate job. It's one of the oldest professions in like history. So,
and we're going to get into this article explaining how this sex trafficking law made the sex work more dangerous. And I assume it's probably something like too wide of a range of things that they make illegal in the laws, but let's go to the phones first before we get into the article. Ricky from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you're on Free Talk Live. Hey, Ricky, I haven't talked to you since then, but I went to Valley Forge this year.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was really fun.
Oh, I can imagine. You know, Pennsylvania is a very special place.
I have been there twice this year, and I actually really do like it. It has somewhat of a Midwest, almost somewhat of a Southern feel, too.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, there's a definite connection to the South with Pennsylvania. It's been passed on by generations and generations. The one thing that I'm disappointed with is that I don't know if you're old enough to remember, probably not, but we used to have on our license plates, "You've got a friend in Pennsylvania."
Oh, nice.
And I wish they would have kept that. It was printed right at the bottom, you know?
What does it say now?
It doesn't. I don't know. I'm blind. I don't see them, and I don't really keep track of it anymore.
Yeah.
I know they took that off, so I don't know what it probably says nothing. You know?
I didn't notice, honestly.
They even took Commonwealth of Pennsylvania off of our IDs. Now it just says Pennsylvania, so they can put some lame ass website that nobody visits.
Wow, that's pretty stupid.
It really is a lame website too, and nobody visits it. But
erasing history.
Pretty much, but they can't erase me. And here's why I call in tonight. And good evening, Miss Bonnie. Brother Penguin, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Oh, no doubt. Well, you know, you kind of got my interest tonight when you're talking about prostitution.
I mean, doesn't that spark every guy's interests?
Well, no, it wasn't really like that. But here's what I tell you it was like. And I had a discussion. It was actually Brother Ian and Brother Darrell many years ago. I think it was back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Somewhere around there. And this topic came up. And I remember I went through a whole long, drawn-out thing, which I'm not going to do here. But I remember Brother Darrell said to me, he said, "Okay, Ricky, but nobody cares what you think. What does Thomas Jefferson think?" And my point was it's a constitutional issue. That's when I pointed out that Tom messed with everything, but he never messed with that because it is a constitutional issue. This is, you know, when it comes down to it, that whether it be male or female, it is a constitutional issue. But you know what my theory is?
What?
My theory on the whole thing is the only reason why Uncle Sam doesn't become the madam is because they can't control it. Because anybody male and female could open up shop. They can't control it. And it's the same as alcohol.
I think that you're onto something, and I'll carry you on in the next segment if you're interested, but I think it would be really hard to control because it's something people can do with no tools. They could do it in their own home, cash. So I do really think you're onto something. It's a bit harder to it's a bit easier to even do tips, in my opinion, because, well, you gotta be at a restaurant, you have to have a boss looking over your shoulders, like, did you put in all your tips? More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's Free Talk Live.
Pushed to the breaking point after constantly being taken to task without ever hearing a word of thanks for what it does around here, an overwhelmed and infuriated nation announced in February that it was trying, okay? Jesus Christ. A poll of the American populace revealed that 33% felt they were doing pretty damned well, thank you, while another 28% just wanted 2 freaking minutes without somebody breathing down their neck.
We're trying as hard as we can here. How about cutting some little slack for a change, huh? You know what? This is just bullshit. I do not need this.
Christ Almighty, sources added. God distanced himself from the entire right-wing fundamentalist Christian movement, saying that he did not believe pregnancies result from his divine will. The Almighty Father went on to dismiss capital punishment, gun rights, the anti-abortion movement, and the efforts of the Westboro Baptist Church, while adding that he and Christian conservatives, quote, no longer saw eye to eye on the majority of issues. And physicists discovered that the entirety of our known universe is actually the fictional setting of a cop show called Hard Case.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. Trent Murray is there.
Netanyahu said Israel was prepared to act with the same force it deployed against Iran's other, quote, terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. The IDF in recent days has confirmed it's launched airstrikes on port, energy and oil facilities in Yemen that it says were controlled by the Houthis. The US Air Force has also been striking sites in the country as part of a coalition with the UK, whose mission is to try and protect international shipping in the nearby Red Sea.
US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row, meaning they will now not face the death penalty. He took the decision to ensure President-elect Donald Trump can't resume those executions when he returns to the White House next month. Meanwhile, one of Trump's initial picks for a senior cabinet position has violated not only multiple congressional rules, but several state and federal laws, according to an ethics report. Matt Gaetz, the firebrand ex-politician, is alleged to have paid a dozen or so women tens of thousands of dollars with the general expectation of sex in return, amongst them an underage student who was just 17 at the time. The report also says the former Florida congressman used illegal drugs while in office. He denies wrongdoing. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. Mangione was apprehended days after the killing in Midtown Manhattan and now faces federal charges, as Mitch McCann reports.
Luigi Mangione was led into a courtroom wearing a maroon jumper and light-coloured pants, with his wrists handcuffed and his ankles shackled. He pleaded not guilty to 11 charges, including first-degree murder, a terrorism-related offence, and 2 variations of second-degree murder. In court, the 26-year-old's lawyer spoke out against the treatment of her client, stating that his rights are being violated. She added he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping-pong ball, referring to the various state and federal charges he faces. Despite the serious nature of the charges, Mangione has gained a following online, with some even considering him a folk hero.
And we're learning more details about the man accused of killing 5 people and injuring dozens more at a Christmas market in Germany. Our Europe correspondent William Denzelo brings us more details.
Taleb al-Abdelmohsen is a Saudi national who moved to Germany in 2006 and is accused of driving a car into the Magdeburg Christmas market on Friday night. Authorities say the suspect is self-described as an ex-Muslim who's expressed right-wing and anti-immigrant views. Officials say previous tip-offs about him had been taken seriously.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSA.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And somehow I just noticed that I say O for the 603 and 0 for the last number, and now I'm really annoyed, and I don't think I can change it. But in other news, not your keys, not your Bitcoin is a lesson that too many people have learned the hard way. It's always best to get your crypto into a wallet that you control, but not all wallets are created equal. Many of our hosts have been using Edge Wallet for years to manage crypto, and there just aren't many wallets to compare. Featuring a unique login system that makes it easier for you to access your crypto from multiple devices, Edge is designed to be user-friendly. In a space that can be notoriously difficult for non-tech people, Edge is a valuable tool for novices and experts alike. You can learn more at edge.app, that's EDGE.app, which features a link at the top for those who wish to learn more about crypto and wallets. Thank you to Edge for sponsoring Free Talk Live, and again, to learn more, visit edge.app. With you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
And we already have a caller in line. We started talking to him last segment, but ran into the break. Ricky from the Commonwealth, of Pennsylvania. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
That would be Ricky from the Commonwealth, no doubt, Miss Bonnie.
Yeah, I just heard that Kentucky was a Commonwealth the other day too, so I figured I should finish the whole.
You know what? Can I tell you a little something about that? I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, here's what happened to the other Commonwealths.
Mm-hmm.
What you got is you got Massachusetts. Massachusetts, way before you were born, young lady, used to be Pennsylvania's sister. But you see, what happened is what they did is they used municipalities, just like we have. But the problem is theirs weren't so good. And what happened is also they got a couple of status in government, and once you lose it, it's gone. That's what happened to Massachusetts. And Massachusetts doesn't even resemble Pennsylvania anymore. Then you got Kentucky. I'll tell you what happened there. What happened with Kentucky at a point, the problem with the boys down in Kentucky is they'll get good and drunky every other day, you know?
Yeah.
So what happened is they come in one day and said, oh, we lost our Commonwealth status. What do we do? And they stayed up all night trying to fix it, you know? So that's what happened to Kentucky. And Virginia has Commonwealth law, but they're really a hybrid. Now, we're in Pennsylvania, a true Commonwealth, because we're what they call a pre-association. That was the and I know if you talk to Brother Jay privately, he'll tell you all about this. We had a show, and I'm trying to remember when it was. It'll come to me, and if it comes to me in the future, I'll tell you. But anyways, what we had as a caveat when we ratified in 1787, and that was that we're a pre-association. Now, an interesting side note to what a pre-association is, it was back in, I think, 2022, Puerto Rico went up again, looking at statehood, and it went through Congress. They got three options. Option A, they could become a state, like New Jersey or New York, say, or California for that matter, statehood. Or B, they could be a pre-association, like Pennsylvania. And I'll tell you what that is when I'm done with this. And then C it's what they're calling independence, believe it or not, which is exactly what they are now. A U.S. territory with a single non-voting representative in the House of Representatives. What a pre-association means, like in California, there's socialists over there, and the government can intervene.
Wait, they have what over in California?
In California, they're socialists.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, their extreme socialization ultimately will destroy them. Now, the government already cleared their throat a year or so ago on that. And they can actually intervene. Now, Pennsylvania, if we decided to do something like that, they can't stop us. And I don't think they should stop California anyways. It's their state. If they want to destroy themselves with socialization, it is their choice.
That's true.
You know, so I think the government's wrong.
What are they stopping in California? Like, what law are they stopping from passing?
Well, the government stepped in about a year or so ago and said, you guys got to cut back on this socialism stuff because you can't do it. You're going to destroy yourself. And they can't intervene with California and stop them.
Okay.
You know?
I hadn't heard about that, but it makes sense.
Well, that happened about a year or so ago.
Yeah. They would have to admit socialism doesn't work if California, a place that has no reason to be, you know, not extremely prosperous, completely disintegrates.
Well, but it's all for the union, you see, and they don't want to lose California.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
that's a good point.
That's what it comes down to.
I got a
But
book from my parents.
Back on the,
oh, go ahead.
But back on the prostitution now.
Oh, yeah, let's get into that.
Yes, we got off on a little bit on a tangent there, Miss Monty, but that's all right. But see, it's funny the way I see it. You got the soliciting laws, that's a constitutional issue. Then you got the woman's right to choose, that's a constitutional issue. Hell, you could even throw in transgender with women. That's a constitutional issue. It doesn't matter. The way I see it, there's 3 constitutional issues got thrown away. And it's a shame. The way I see it, I hate to say it, we're going to be debating this forever. And like I said, because they can't control it altogether, Uncle Sam's attitude, just like alcohol, unless they can control it all, which they do, they control it from the distillery onward, you were never going to see alcohol legalized again. You know, the only reason why they did prohibition was to wipe out the mobsters and the bootleggers so they could control it themselves. Now, if tomorrow you could do it where the impossible it is, but if you could control it, which you can't, there's no way. You're always going to have people looking to go tax-free or whatever. You never, even though there would be benefits to being legal with it, you're always going to have people. If you have anybody that's doing that, you're never going to see it legalized. It's a damn shame, you know, because you could clean the whole thing up, just like Penguin was saying.
Yeah, make it a lot safer. And
and you would get rid of the pimp because that would be Uncle Sam.
I wasn't suggesting we replace the pimp with Uncle Sam. That sounds even worse to
a more
me.
evil Sam. I mean,
I think it would be less violent. You know, actually,
I don't
he
know.
Just wants the money.
Well, the thing is, right now there's the violence of people who think they're untouchable because they're operating in the dark, and also the violence of the cops on top of that. So maybe there would be a little less violence, but the cops could get worse if things got legalized and everything was like, you know, they're able to go in there and regulate all the time.
I mean, to say you're replacing the pimp with the government is okay. So the implication, and maybe I'm taking this farther than you guys are, but is that the government, you would have to go to the government in order to, you know, have sex with a prostitute.
Oh no, I was just saying if it was legal but taxed. Was that what you were saying, Ricky?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like going to the government.
Yeah, but there's an even further step if it's like...
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
The problem with the taxing is there's always going to be people who want to avoid the tax. So you're going to start the same problem back up again with people going off on their own with pimps and whatever. And as long as you have that, Uncle Sam won't have. But I'll tell you something I'm going to testify to. Now, I'm going to be 51 in 2 days on December 25th. Now, the funny thing is, I tell you that, and here's why I'm telling you, because when I was about 8 or 10 years old, I remember, I'm not going to say my hometown, but in my hometown by the watch shop, and I wish I could tell you the location because it's a very famous location, that's where all the whores hung out. And they would walk that street, that block. And the funny thing was, occasionally you had these jackasses would complain. So the local boys would come in and say, come on, girls, move it down. And they'd move them down a block. Right. That's very true.
I believe this. This reminds me of Manchester in New Hampshire. There's a street in Manchester that the girls walk. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Look,
I'm sure it's that way everywhere, but yeah.
I know this. I mean, we have the Pennsylvania troopers here, and I love them because they're very high and mighty on the Constitution, and I love that. They're right up with me that everybody has the right to have a firearm, which means, you know, felons, domestic abusers, crazy people in use. Everybody has the right to protect themselves.
That's what the cops believe it, but is there
the
constitutional...
Pennsylvania troopers, I will say the troopers believe that. I don't know about local cops.
Oh, but is there constitutional carry in Pennsylvania?
What's this?
Does Pennsylvania have constitutional carry?
No, but you know what the funny thing is?
I don't even think it has open carry, does it?
It does.
Oh, it has open carry. Okay.
It does. But you know the thing is...
Kind of surprises me.
You know what my answer is? You shouldn't even need constitutional carry because the whole damn thing's unconstitutional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, that's true.
I completely agree.
You know, I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, to see what happened with us here in Pennsylvania is we were one of we still have the private dealer here. And I'll tell you how that works. You see, it started in 1979 out of the House of Representatives where you had the FFL. That was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And bit by bit it crept in. When I was a kid, let me tell you how it was. When I was 10 years old, if I wanted a Colt 45, and it was convenient because I was only half a block from the gun shop, you know, I would have walked down with my old man, and he'd say, "What gun would you like, kid?" And I'd point it out to him. I'd check it out. We'd grab some cartridges and whatnot because all I need is my dad's go-ahead. And that was it. There's no background checks. There's no ATF forms, you know. I'm 10 years old. I could have had one. I had no practical purpose for it. There was plenty of other guns around. You know what I mean?
You know what's kind of cool is today, if you're 10 years old and you want a gun, you buy yourself a 3D printer and you print it yourself. It takes a little bit more work and effort.
Well,
but you learn something from it.
Well, Penguin, here's the rest of it. What happened with us is it's trickery. Where you had people that were like that. They said, "Oh, you can be legal." And bit by bit, there was more and more people who became FFLs. Now, the private dealers still exist. What got me mad is Representative Probst is one of the people in District 189 who said this. And see, we're going to wipe out the private dealer. We're trying to figure that out. You know, we're going to wipe out the gun show loophole. Let me tell you something. With the gun show loophole is the same people that have shops that are private dealers. You can still in Pennsylvania, if you're a private dealer, not an FFL, a private dealer, you don't have to do background checks. You don't have to do ATF forms. That still exists. It's just very spotty. But it does still exist. The FFL is an optional thing. Always was there in PA.
What's the FFL again? I feel like I've heard
Federal Firearms Licensee.
Oh.
You know, that's all the federal garbage.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you want to hear a funny one? A guy I know said I should have done it. He was a private dealer for 30 years. He decided to be an FFL a couple of years back.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I never should have done it. You know what they want me to do? Get this. They told him that he has to keep a paper copy and a computer copy of all the serial numbers to the guns he sells.
Yeah.
Guess where? In with the guns.
Yeah.
See, that's the wisdom of Uncle Sam.
Yeah,
right
this doesn't surprise me
Wait,
at
what does
all.
this mean?
No, what they told him is when he became an FFL, what he has to do is he has to keep not only a paper copy, but the computer with all the serial numbers of all the guns he sold in with the guns.
But what do you mean, like in a safe?
No.
Oh.
Just keep them in there.
I mean, no one should be forced to make or have any specific records from the government for whatever business they
and
have.
it's funny because it's an interesting note. I have issues with all this stuff because in Pennsylvania, law enforcement cannot keep a registry of serial numbers, but there's a loophole to that. We have the local offices of the FBI. Because what happens is you got the ATF form, that gets sent to the FBI, so it's like a loophole. I don't like that. You know, that bothers me. I mean, personally, I'd like to see it go away. I believe that everybody does have the right to protect themselves. Everybody, and that right can't be taken away.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I don't know. I don't know how it compares to New Hampshire, but I know in New Hampshire we've got private sale. So if you're buying it from another individual, there's no records required. But at the same time, I know if you buy it from a licensed dealer, there is, at least at the federal level. So, yeah.
Well, the only difference is the private dealer does exist. Now, those guys that go to those gun shows. Now, federally, they're trying to crack down on that. Pennsylvania is a big target for that. because the private dealers still exist. They're around. You know, you got to find them, and they're here and there.
Yeah,
but they do
isn't
still
it?
exist.
Isn't it something like you can't be in the business though as a private dealer? So like I've never heard it called dealer before, but a private individual can sell a gun that he's purchased as long as it wasn't intended for resale when he originally got it. It was something like that.
No, that's not exactly correct. You can still have a gun shop and be a private dealer here in Pennsylvania.
Under state law, but not under federal law?
Period.
Interesting. So I haven't heard that before.
I'll tell you why that is. When I was talking about a pre-association, the federal government, it's interesting. I was getting on that before. What that means is...
I have a feeling the federal government's going to disagree with you on this, but keep going.
Well, no, that doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it exists.
Until you get arrested for dealing without a license.
No, you can. I know a guy that was a private dealer for 30 years and just decided to make a bonehead move and become an FFL a couple of years ago and made a big mistake. He admits it. He didn't know what he was doing. But the thing is, the pre-association, what that caveat means is there's a non-interference rule with the people and the land, which means that's why, say tomorrow, we decide to go the California route and be crazy socialists.
Oh, no.
They couldn't stop us. They couldn't stop us from being socialists like they can in California. That's what that means.
Well, I looked it up.
That's a beautiful thing, really.
I looked it up to see if Pennsylvania's ever considered constitutional carry, and it says in 2021, like the House and Senate actually passed it, but their governor at the time vetoed it. So they've gotten close. They may be I think it's there's over 20 states at the moment, so they might be like, I think it's the 25th state if they can do it like this year.
I wish we could apply that freedom way to way more things. It's like so they recently passed a law that in the 1970s was turned. They basically was huge uproar over this, and it basically. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but whenever you get into a car, a modern car anyway, and you sit down, it detects the fact that there's a person in the seat.
Black box data collecting.
Well,
or you just mean like for the beeping that you're
what happens is it'll beep on you. It'll beep on you.
Penguin, is that for the seatbelt garbage?
It is for the seatbelt. And
I won't wear a seatbelt. I trick it and stick it in there behind me. I won't wear a seatbelt.
So anyway, the point that I'm making is that they've now brought this to the other seats in the vehicle, and it will be coming in like, I don't know, a couple years or whatever. All manufacturers have to implement this, and it's such a ridiculous thing. It's like if you put some heavy boxes on, like say the front seat, for example, you're now going to have to make sure that seat belt is connected, otherwise it's going to beep at you.
Buckle up for safety, those boxes.
Yeah, what he's saying about the boxes, I actually heard from Sarah just a couple days ago that there was this woman who she was on trial because a cop died while chasing her. Long story short, it was a really crazy story. But in her trial,
I heard it.
Yeah, they brought in evidence saying, because she claimed that somebody was in her car holding a knife to her head or a gun to her head or whatever, making her drive that way.
Okay.
And then she had gotten away because the cop died in the chase, and so there was nobody to be like, oh, well, clearly there's no one in the car. But what they used was what the black boxes are in the cars. Really bad thing.
I am aware of the black boxes. Since I think it was like 1996, they've been black boxes in the cars, I believe.
They used it, and it told them, and they were able to bring it into court, hey, nobody was sitting in the passenger seat, so she was lying, and she got found guilty of murder. She got found guilty of murder.
And I agree with you, Bonnie. That should have been, okay, first, what she did was really bad and wrong, but it should have been a manslaughter charge.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably.
I don't see how they can make that murder.
I'm always very careful when it comes to forensics kind of stuff like this, because that doesn't really prove that there was nobody in the seat. It really doesn't. It just shows that the sensors, the black box didn't pick up the fact that there was somebody in the seat. And that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe the guy was intentionally not sitting down or
I've done that
like
before
on the
where
seat.
it's like beeping, but I'm for whatever reason I'm distracted. I can just easily like lift my butt up and keep my feet on the ground, make it stop beeping for a while.
See, this is an issue of, okay, more likely than not, there probably was nobody there, right?
Mhm.
I'll give you that. But the
Yeah.
problem is it's not supposed to be beyond, it's not supposed to, the standard at criminal trial is not beyond, it's not
not
more likely than not.
preponderance.
It's
Yeah.
beyond the,
Like a shadow of doubt. That's not
yeah,
the
beyond
term.
a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, but basically that's what it is. Yeah.
I never remember. I always get confused because it sounds like beyond a shadow of a doubt, but it's the same thing. That's
Right.
what it means.
So the second the lawyer says, well, is it possible that it was that the black box, was defective, or the seatbelt, the sensor was defective, or that maybe somebody was just standing in an awkward position in the vehicle while pointing the gun and it didn't pick up on it? That right there, that introduces doubt. It should. So yeah.
Well, I'm curious here, the general consensus back to prostitution. We'll start with you, Penguin, since you seem to have all the answers.
I don't know about all the answers, but
I don't
many
know.
of them,
How about
maybe.
Okay, well, we're going to try it. How about my thinking here, that unless Uncle Sam can control all of it, he's never going to make it legal? Do you think I'm right?
Like with prostitution.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's all. I don't know if I would agree with that. Like all legal. I mean, I think the government recognizes at times that they're not necessarily going to collect all. Like, I'll give you an example, perfect example of this. So we have a lot of states have introduced cashless tolls, and one of the things that happens when you introduce cashless tolls is that there's more people who don't pay the tolls. And the reason that they go with the cashless tolls is because it effectively it makes things more efficient, and there's also a private entity that's benefiting from it. So
because they're not paying someone to stand there.
Yeah, well, right. But there's also improvements.
Penguin, you just gave me a good idea. Now that's possible solution. I know that in Pennsylvania, if we did, there's not a damn thing they could do about it. Now in Jersey, it might be a little more difficult because they have statehood. Our Constitution means a little bit more here. But the thing is, if you put it in your Constitution, that would give you clout, that you have the right to pimp out yourself if you like.
Yeah, I mean,
as unforeseeable that is, that would be a solution. I think it depends on how much clout you have under your Constitution. Here in Pennsylvania, we got a lot. Our Constitution is golden.
Well, before this segment ends, Ricky, I did want to tell you I thought of you recently for another reason other than going to Valley Forge, because my mom and dad gave me a book for Christmas, and it's called Defending Dixie's Land, what every American should know about the Civil War, and it has a battle flag on the front, so I'm always like, I have a battle flag on my nightstand right now.
All right, well, I love that.
To make me look at you very differently, Bonnie, knowing that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What'd you say, Ricky?
What's the title of that again?
It's called Defending Dixie's Land, and then there's a subtitle, what every American should know about the Civil War.
That's good enough. I'm going to look it up, see if I can get it.
Yeah, I thought you would think that was funny. And to answer you thinking of me differently, Penguin, I do have what's it called, a keychain with one anyway. I just like them. I got it while I was in Tennessee. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More Free Talk Live coming up. You can call 603-283-6160 for more to talk about whatever is on your mind. Thank you, Ricky, for the call, and we're looking forward to more.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. Trent Murray is there.
Netanyahu said Israel was prepared to act with the same force it deployed against Iran's other, quote, terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. The IDF in recent days has confirmed it's launched airstrikes on port, energy and oil facilities in Yemen that it says were controlled by the Houthis. The US Air Force has also been striking sites in the country as part of a coalition with the UK, whose mission is to try and protect international shipping in the nearby Red Sea.
US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row, meaning they will now not face the death penalty. He took the decision to ensure President-elect Donald Trump can't resume those executions when he returns to the White House next month. Meanwhile, one of Trump's initial picks for a senior cabinet position has violated not only multiple congressional rules, but several state and federal laws, according to an ethics report. Matt Gaetz, the firebrand ex-politician, is alleged to have paid a dozen or so women tens of thousands of dollars with the general expectation of sex in return, amongst them an underage student who was just 17 at the time. The report also says the former Florida congressman used illegal drugs while in office. He denies wrongdoing. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. Mangione was apprehended days after the killing in Midtown Manhattan and now faces federal charges, as Mitch McCann reports.
Luigi Mangione was led into a courtroom wearing a maroon jumper and light-coloured pants, with his wrists handcuffed and his ankles shackled. He pleaded not guilty to 11 charges, including first-degree murder, a terrorism-related offence, and 2 variations of second-degree murder. In court, the 26-year-old's lawyer spoke out against the treatment of her client, stating that his rights are being violated. She added he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping-pong ball, referring to the various state and federal charges he faces. Despite the serious nature of the charges, Mangione has gained a following online, with some even considering him a folk hero.
And we're learning more details about the man accused of killing 5 people and injuring dozens more at a Christmas market in Germany. Our Europe correspondent William Denzelo brings us more details.
Taleb al-Abdelmohsen is a Saudi national who moved to Germany in 2006 and is accused of driving a car into the Magdeburg Christmas market on Friday night. Authorities say the suspect is self-described as an ex-Muslim who's expressed right-wing and anti-immigrant views. Officials say previous tip-offs about him had been taken seriously.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, spending this week casting a gaze into our 2025 crystal ball with the help of the New York Times chief diplomatic correspondent Steve Erlinger, one of the most seasoned and nuanced observers globally. He's been talking to America's Council on Foreign Relations about the issues he will be watching over the next 12 months.
October 7th, when Hamas went and invaded Israel, was like the fall of the wall in 1989. It was completely unexpected.
Today, Israel and Gaza.
Hamas, as we know, is devastated, but what next in Gaza? The war is pretty much over there, but Israel has failed to produce the political conclusion that would let them leave. And I'm not sure they want to leave. Iran is looking quite naked. Trump wouldn't join an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear program, but he might sanction it. And also, he might not bother too much if Israel moves to annex more parts of the West Bank, like the Jordan Valley. So there's a lot to play for and a lot of uncertainty, but there's no question that Israel is, to some degree, setting the agenda now, and Iran is very much weakened.
Tomorrow, Turkey, a huge beneficiary of the collapse of the regime of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Here's a reminder of our top stories again. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row. And Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A Colorado man reminisced Monday about a simpler time when he only masturbated to still images on the internet. 36-year-old Timothy Barchuk, who now says he requires multiple streaming hardcore videos just to get excited, willfully reflected on the days of waiting for slowly loading images of naked women to appear.
Look at this picture of Phoebe Cates. Sure, you can pull it up in 2 seconds now. Back in the old days, you'd have to wait for it to materialize on your screen pixel by pixel. It's not about her tits, which are nice, but it's about waiting for them. Nowadays, you can pull up 8 different videos of anal sex at once. Who cares?
In local news, the person who will one day become the warlord ruler of what was once Nebraska is born in an Omaha hospital. And in other news, a man and woman get drunk and blow $30,000 in one night. A lonely college student calls up his mom to talk about Harold and Kumar, and another dead body is tossed on a heap somewhere. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency made for spending. You can pay your bills with Dash at spritz.finance. Plus, they can send dollars to your bank if you still need those for something. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
And we've been teasing this article for a whole hour now, but we took some calls, or a call, if I recall correctly. And if you would like to get on the air with us, you could change the subject, tell us what you think about this, tell us whatever you want. It's 603-283-6160, but let's get into this article from the Wall Street Journal. This woman is saying how a sex trafficking law made my job as a sex worker more dangerous. She's, I guess this is from the point of view of the woman, and I'm not sure if the author here, Laura Lamoon, is her. Oh, yes, it is. That's her name under the picture. So this is from her point of view. My phone's tinny ring was once the sound of my liberation, and as an escort working by and for myself, I used to field around 100 calls and texts a day from prospective clients, most of whom found my ad on a then popular escort site called Backpage.com.
Hey, what did I tell you 2 months ago?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, this is the site that literally was protecting women or enabling women to protect themselves because they would be able to pre-screen who it was that they were going to have sex with before having sex with them. Whereas if a woman is forced to walk the street, and likely has a pimp as a result, part of her earnings are being stolen from her or taken from her. And the other thing is, you don't know who you're getting into a car with if you're just walking the street like that. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing that the amount of protection and the increase, the reduction in risk as a result of things like Backpage. And it's not just Backpage. Things like the Silk Road, also another great example. We're also making things safer for people who, drug addicts and things like that. And yet the government doesn't want that. What they want is their money. They want to have a reason to lock people up, and they have a job security. I mean, it's about job security when you think about it. Why do you think a police officer is going to say, well, that needs to be illegal because it's dangerous? Well, no, you're only saying that because it's you need to justify your employment.
Correct.
So.
I agree with that. And I've always said the same thing about the Silk Road too. Just anytime somebody can buy drugs on the internet and it's safer for them, the government doesn't like that because of all these excuses. But in reality, it's because it cuts out the government, because when it's illegal, they have their little black market that them and the CIA and the DEA can make a whole bunch of money selling drugs that way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the Silk Road was actually doing was enabling people to get their drugs tested easily, so they would know whether or not they were getting, what was it, fentanyl? Fentanyl, is that the real dangerous one?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a real dangerous substance, and they're mixing it with other drugs.
Fentanyl. Yeah.
So anyway, so fentanyl is basically really dangerous, and if you order, cocaine or whatever it is that you order, if it's mixed, you're more at risk of overdosing. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's actually cocaine, then you're less at risk of overdosing. And so people,
it's a smaller level you can overdose on for fentanyl.
Right. And it's not that the dealer is trying to, kill you. It's that the my understanding anyway of it is that it's basically fentanyl is a very, very concentrated drug. And so when you're doing it, with machinery, you can basically get the right portions. But because the portions are so tiny, it's really hard for somebody to measure by hand. And so this is what creates, and the reason that this exists and it's being mixed is because it's easier to concentrate it and then transport it across borders. And if it wasn't a criminal offense to do this, then we wouldn't have fentanyl at all. There wouldn't be any reason for fentanyl to exist. So literally the government has created the safety concern, and now when there's people who are trying to make it safer, because now when you get your cocaine, you can send a little bit of it to be tested and find out, is this actually cocaine or is it mixed with something else? Well, they'll get a report back saying, yes, it is mixed or it is not mixed. And if it's mixed and you were sold pure cocaine, for example, or something along those lines, well, now you can go back and you can write in a negative review saying, hey, this guy is not, shipping what he's selling or advertising. Mm-hmm. And then other people will know not to actually, purchase from this particular dealer.
Yeah. And the government's so evil that until I think 2 years ago, New Hampshire had it illegal to drive around with a kit that you could test for fentanyl with.
That's crazy.
But luckily that a good Democrat in the state house put in a bill to make that to change that. Now it's
I mean, this is the thing with libertarians. You'll hear us agreeing like that there's some things that the Democrats are doing that are good, but there's also bad things. And the same thing with Republicans. They do bad things and they do good things.
Yep.
And it's just it kind of depends on what it is.
Right now, the Republicans, for something bad that they do, they are they have this bill that is up for consideration. It hasn't been passed or anything, but for creating stronger red flag laws against guns in New Hampshire. The Republicans.
This just seems crazy to me. Yeah. I suspect it's probably not all the Republicans, but in this particular case, but mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I certainly disagree with, like, I know there's like, I know they passed something in regards to it wasn't an abortion prohibition, but it's like the last, I don't know, trimester or something like that, or the last couple of months, you can't have an abortion in New Hampshire. I mean, unless there's some sort of medical health reason for it. But the point is that previously, I guess you could, and so they're definitely doing things I'm not a fan of. Not to say that I'm advocating for people to go have abortions or anything like that, or go have it at the end of the period. But the point is that this is something that it's your body, it's your choice. Nobody else should be able to tell you what you can and cannot do with it. Now, it's a moral issue, and I can advocate all I want for trying to get you not to have an abortion. That's fine, but it's not right for me to advocate for them to pass a law
for the police to go and kill you over it. Because that's always what
there's also that risk anytime. And then so people don't understand. It's like you're literally advocating for violence whenever you advocate for passing, a law that is going to be enforced against individuals, because that's what law enforcement does. They use violence to try to enforce, rules. And if you don't obey them,
even if you do obey them, you're always at a risk when you're interacting with a police officer that they would kill you. That they might kill you.
You're right. And it's not just people with drugs, because they're going to use those same tactics to go after anybody, or to try to find drugs. And in the process, that is a dangerous interaction. They consider it to be a dangerous interaction. So they're more likely to shoot you, even though you have no drugs, for example. Like say you're, in a car, for example, but they're looking for him because they want to catch a drug dealer, because they're going to get money. They're going to keep a portion of the money, because there's something called civil asset forfeiture. They probably won't even arrest you for it. They'll just take the money, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's so messed up how, the law actually works. And most people, when you tell them, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
They've been brainwashed into believing that cops are good and, all this other nonsense. And
laws
it's
are
like,
for the common good.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, no, cops are just like you and me, maybe even more leaning towards the bad side, because they're literally being incentivized to be bad. Yeah. And then, add in the fact, that like who wants to go and beat people up? I mean, that's kind of messed up. I mean, that's what a cop does, is they go and beat people up. So why would you think that that's going to attract a peaceful clientele, or I'm sorry, a peaceful,
person wanting to take the job?
Yeah, a peaceful set of individuals taking that job. No, they're looking for the highs. It may not be a high from a drug, but it is a high from a drug, because what's it called? Adrenaline, right? It's an adrenaline high. So adrenaline is a drug that's produced by the body. I mean, you could do it artificially, but the point is it's produced by the body, and they're basically it's like people jumping off bridges or out of planes. It gives you an adrenaline high when you become a cop. And this is why a lot of cops become cops.
And it's why so many cops are quick to jump on if there's a raid that the feds need local cops to join. They get all excited about it.
Oh yeah,
they don't even have to know what crime the person did. They're ready to break down your property.
It's even more messed up than that, because most of the time the local cop, at least with the federal raids anyway, the local cops aren't there for the raid itself. They're only there to control traffic, and the fact that they're getting excited about controlling traffic is just mind-blowing. And it's just because they get excited, like they're gonna see something that nobody else can see. And then if somebody else tries to go and watch the raid occurring, like a reporter, they get to beat them up, because that's what they're supposed to do, right? It's like it's so messed up.
Yep. So we went on a bit of a tangent there, but just basically to say, and this article is what this is going to get into. Basically, cops need to justify their existence by making things quote unquote safer. But this woman is telling you that as an escort, things were so much safer for her. She described it as her liberation when it was easier to be able to be an escort. And she said working for and by herself, using Backpage.com. So she said the inquiries were plentiful, so I could be choosy. I had control over who I met and where I met them. Sometimes I didn't feel like meeting anyone at all, so I took the day off. The clients I chose to see were typically respectful. They often had wives, families, and jobs. I mean, it's possible that your wife says it's okay.
This is definitely something that happens. I think it's probably something that's more common today than it was, 30 or 40 years ago. But but even 30 or 40 years ago, I mean, there was what I'm trying to think what they call them, like wife
swingers,
swap or swap. What is it? Something like some sort of
swingers.
Swingers, yeah, swingers. That's what you call them. But yeah, I mean, there was swinging parties and stuff, and married couples would trade partners, and it's like it's. I guess I think of it as something that's kind of more. Something more recent, but I guess it's kind of been around a long time, probably a lot longer than I I don't want to say, I mean, I don't know if that's happening a lot now, like swingers, like, because that's, I think, more of I feel like that's a generational thing, but certainly people having other sexual partners is, I think, something that happens.
This wouldn't even have to be swinging. It could just be that the wife has a really low sex drive, but understands her husband has a high one, and she just allows it, like, as long as you're being safe, type of thing.
And the thing is, like, this is the thing I've never really understood, right? Like, sex is not like, I mean, I guess people treat it like as if it's like the thing, but that's not really the relationship. That's just something that you do in the relationship.
Yeah.
So in my mind, if my partner wanted to go out there and have sex with random guys, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I just don't think that's like, that's not why I have a relationship with him. Like, we're really good together, right? Like, there's so much more to a relationship than sex.
Yep. And
so
you could have like some ground rules, if you wanted.
Right. Like, I mean, just because you have sex with another person doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go and like have a family with them. Like, that's a different kind of relationship.
Right.
There's like relationships, like, what we think of, and then, as a, man and a wife, other than, maybe the sex part. But the point is, there's that. And then there's also the sex aspect. And that's just sort of different. You can have a sexual relationship without having the family and also have a family on the side. And there's like, there's really, I don't know, like, to me, like, in my mind, that's like probably one of the better kind of routes to take. Like, I mean, because I mean, what's the alternative, right? Like, getting upset because,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, it just seems crazy to me. Like, if you, I understand like divorce and stuff like that, but like, if you have a good relationship and you just aren't interested anymore in having sex, that doesn't mean you can't continue to have a good relationship. So,
yep. And I don't know. I'm sure some people would just not want that to go on, but I don't think, I just wanted to bring all this up, like, some people could be okay with it because she says they often had wives, families, and jobs.
Well, I think part of it, though,
I wanted to point out
is people get into the relationship for the sex.
Yeah.
And then they have a family, and it's like, it should be the other way around. You should get into the relationship because you want to have a family, and then and then the sex comes later, right? Like,
I just wanted to point out, because it sounds kind of like, oh, isn't she saying something bad there? But I don't really know her. I don't know exactly why she would say that. I think she's trying to say, oh, they were like normal people. They were normal members of society, not like total freaks. I think that's the point she's trying to make. And I just don't want people to think, oh, that's immediately a bad thing, because I know of people, and I actually see it on the internet all the time, like swingers. Not that this is necessarily swinging. So I think it still goes on. But
oh, yeah. I think there's a lot more stuff going on the side, men in particular, and women too, I guess. But obviously, there's got to be a woman for another relationship to occur, right? A sexual relationship. But I think it happens more frequently than people, I think, realize.
We have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the calls. Oddly enough, another caller in Pennsylvania. It's heard. Ferguson, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, but I live in the good part of Pennsylvania, not the crappy part.
Like, I don't know if he said where he lives.
I know where he lives. He lives in crap Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The crappy part, not the good part.
Okay.
Yeah, but
what's the good part of Pennsylvania?
The good part of Pennsylvania is Shrewsbury, and everywhere else sucks. But I was gonna say, because I tagged the studio account in the Matrix a couple days ago, asking your opinion whether or not this chick was pop star material, and I never heard back from you, and I really want to know, honestly.
I haven't looked. Who is it?
I can't tell you who it is on the air.
Oh, somebody in like your real life?
I can't say one way or the other. I may have run into this person before. I don't know, and it is somebody that it may or may not be somebody that lives near me, so I could bring into the studio, if you know what I mean. So
oh my
I
goodness.
don't know.
Like you mean your studio, like to make a pop song, right?
Yeah, to make a pop song, not to like rape trannies, like Tucktel would say. I don't know where he got that idea, by the way. It sounds like he might be projecting a little bit.
Well, sometimes people say things like that out of pocket because it's on their mind.
Yeah, I know. That's my point. I think that Tucktel likes raping trannies. That's what I'm trying to say, and I totally agree with that. I did get Lori's opinion on this, and Lori was like, she said something very interesting. She was like, she's got the body for it, but she's got resting bitch face. But then she was like, you know, if she turned that into like kind of like part of her brand, though, it might really work for her, which I think is a really good idea. Lori's really smart. I feel like she'd be a very good marketer. But the last thing I wanted to say too, and you by the way, when you do go on to break, you should try to find the tag in the studio, or I could just repost it. But the last thing I was going to say is I've really been enjoying Monday nights lately with the new Monday night lineup instead of the old Monday night lineup.
Okay.
But,
Who's on the new Monday late lineup now? I'm curious.
Me and you.
Oh,
it's Monday.
That's today. Oh my God, I don't even know what day I'm on when I come in on to do FTL. Okay.
Well, I'm glad you show up on the right day.
Yeah, you know, it's in my phone. There's an alarm I got set, so I just
I love doing stuff like that. I heard this theory that it's really good to treat your brain like this. Like your brain isn't for storing absolutely everything. So have a second brain. It could be a paper calendar. It could be I do lots of alarms on my phone. Like, and then I don't have to be like, what's wrong with my brain? I'm supposed to remember things.
My brain still hasn't caught up from when I did Free Talk Live Fridays for like 5 years. So me doing Mondays, and I did a little bit on Tuesdays, but like a really long time ago when I first started. And it's like I'm still on, I do it on Fridays, but I don't. I actually do it on Mondays now.
Right now, Fridays are, they're not a live show.
Yeah, I need to start using my calendar more too. I'd like to like put in really specific things in there, like, you know, blog posting. And actually, I went to the coffee shop earlier and I was making beats in the coffee shop on my new Machine Plus, which is the standalone version. I really like it. But yeah, you know, it'd be cool if I could just put that in my calendar for like 8 p.m. every night and just go make 2 beats on my Machine Plus. Because imagine that. Imagine if I did that every single night for a year. I'd have like 700 beats.
Yeah.
You know?
Ian is really good with his online calendar. He never forgets anything, even if it's something that only happens once a month or once a year, because it's in his calendar and he checks it every day. And he gets mad at me because the thing is, like, I'll have a calendar and I'll be like, start getting really good at using it and then stop remembering to look at it. And he's like, did you look at your calendar at all today?
This is what it's like to be an adult, Bonnie. You keep a calendar and you pay attention. You look at it every day.
Ian's like a super adult.
Ian is definitely a super adult. He really is. I mean, I'm pretty good at looking at my calendar too, like that, like Ian is, but he's on hyper overload as far as like working and everything else. It's like I mean, talk about workaholic, man.
Yeah, he's a workaholic.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was a workaholic.
He's even working in prison and also slave driving me in prison.
Yeah, like he's getting probably as much done, if not more, in prison than he would if he was out of prison.
Yeah, seriously.
I feel bad for everybody around him.
He called you from jail to ask you about your calendar. That's kind of crazy.
He hasn't called just to ask me about my calendar. It'll just be like, he'll be like, what are you doing today? And I'm like, I don't really know what I have to do today. Did you look at your calendar at all? It's every day.
Okay. So it's just all right. Well,
I can relate. I can definitely relate with Ian. And my partner is like, yeah, do you even have a calendar? He's always like, can you add this to the calendar? I'm the one with the calendar.
Oh yeah, that's what I do to Ian when he's here. I'm just like, put blah 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 on your calendar. It's just like it works so much better like that. But
see, youth, man, these days, it's the funny thing is, like, okay, so I'm not that much older than Bob, and I know you guys are a little bit. I think you guys have a little bit more of an age difference, but
I think he's just like 4 years older than me, or 5.
Bob is 4 years older than you.
Yeah, when I moved here, he was in his 20s, and I'm 28.
Yeah, let's see, 91 he was born. So.
Yeah, so 5 years older than me.
Yeah. So, but it's just funny. Yeah, it's like, it's like young people don't know how to use a calendar. Like, I don't understand this.
I just forget to check it.
I know, but it's not unique. It's not unique to you. It's like young people in general they're terrible when it comes to like appointments and things.
Well, I'm getting better at using the alarms. Like, I have an alarm for every day I have to do the files for the show, so like I don't just forget to do it, and then it does a replay of last week's show, and some other things. I also have some alarms just to tell me what time it is. I know it sounds crazy, but
no, it's not at all.
I have like an alarm every day that goes off at 3:00 because that's kind of like a pivotal time in the day. It's like it's stopping being even afternoon and now it's late afternoon. I just have to know that or else I'll forget.
And it's a good technique and a habit to get into when you're young. I'm not at a point where my memory is completely gone yet, but like as I get older, it doesn't work as well anymore. And having those alarms, if you program yourself to do that when you're young, you'll be much more likely to actually show up to your appointments when you're older.
Nice. Well, thank you for the call, Turd. I'll check the chat. And he's talking about the Matrix chat. You can go to freetalklive.com and find the instructions for the Matrix chat there. But more Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. Trent Murray is there.
Netanyahu said Israel was prepared to act with the same force it deployed against Iran's other, quote, terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. The IDF in recent days has confirmed it's launched airstrikes on port, energy and oil facilities in Yemen that it says were controlled by the Houthis. The US Air Force has also been striking sites in the country as part of a coalition with the UK, whose mission is to try and protect international shipping in the nearby Red Sea.
US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row, meaning they will now not face the death penalty. He took the decision to ensure President-elect Donald Trump can't resume those executions when he returns to the White House next month. Meanwhile, one of Trump's initial picks for a senior cabinet position has violated not only multiple congressional rules, but several state and federal laws, according to an ethics report. Matt Gaetz, the firebrand ex-politician, is alleged to have paid a dozen or so women tens of thousands of dollars with the general expectation of sex in return, amongst them an underage student who was just 17 at the time. The report also says the former Florida congressman used illegal drugs while in office. He denies wrongdoing. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. Mangione was apprehended days after the killing in Midtown Manhattan and now faces federal charges, as Mitch McCann reports.
Luigi Mangione was led into a courtroom wearing a maroon jumper and light-coloured pants, with his wrists handcuffed and his ankles shackled. He pleaded not guilty to 11 charges, including first-degree murder, a terrorism-related offence, and 2 variations of second-degree murder. In court, the 26-year-old's lawyer spoke out against the treatment of her client, stating that his rights are being violated. She added he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping-pong ball, referring to the various state and federal charges he faces. Despite the serious nature of the charges, Mangione has gained a following online, with some even considering him a folk hero.
And we're learning more details about the man accused of killing 5 people and injuring dozens more at a Christmas market in Germany. Our Europe correspondent William Denzelo brings us more details.
Taleb al-Abdelmohsen is a Saudi national who moved to Germany in 2006 and is accused of driving a car into the Magdeburg Christmas market on Friday night. Authorities say the suspect is self-described as an ex-Muslim who's expressed right-wing and anti-immigrant views. Officials say previous tip-offs about him had been taken seriously.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. Here on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
Oh, I thought I had to unmute myself, but it's unmuted. Sorry about that. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And I already said Chris is on the show tonight, but let's go straight to the phones. You can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're interested in whatever you want to say. You can change the subject, tell us we're wrong. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. And we already have a call in line, so let's go to the phones. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hi.
Did you see I sent a tip?
No.
Did you see my tip?
No.
Take a look at
you mean...
the video feed.
I can't really right now, but what did you put for the... Thank you for sending a tip. What did you put in the message?
To Bonnie, love Skeety.
Oh.
Bonnie,
hey, Bonnie,
is...
I like your dog jacket.
For those who are not watching the show, Bonnie is actually, she's as pretty as her voice sounds.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, and she's young too. And the interesting thing about that is you think of radio hosts these days as being like really, really old.
Yeah.
Because radio's been around a long time and nobody listens to radio anymore, right? So, but no, it's not the case. Actually, we actually have a young person in the studio.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Relatively speaking.
I'm looking through all of the, because those tips, they come in and they're really slow. Oh, I see it now. So, to Bonnie Love Skeety, $4.44. Well, thank you, Skeeter.
There's more where that came from, Bonnie.
Oh my God.
Ban the pink poofy pen? Did you put that one, Skeeter?
I can borrow another $60 from my mom and I can take you out.
Oh my God.
I can take you to the front.
I sometimes wonder why radio stations, air Free Talk Live.
Apparently,
well, anyways.
Oh, did you have something you actually want to say, Skeeter? Well, I just want to say, another person put, ban the poofy pink pen. Has a tip on there. That's because you can leave any message you want.
I don't know how to interpret that one.
It's tip.lrn.fm, and for those not watching, most probably aren't watching, I always have this poofy pink pen that I wave around when I'm talking, just because it's fun. I used to have a sparkly one, but it kind of saw better days, so I threw it away and got a new one.
And you don't see who actually sends it. You can't dox me from that payment, right?
I have no idea how to do that. No, I doubt I can. And I wouldn't dox someone.
Good. But I just wanted to say, you guys need to stop telling lies about the drug war. They don't. First off, the government doesn't profit from that. Far from it. And also, it does not give them long-run job stability. But I that's not really what I want to talk about.
Well,
but anyway,
we're going to respond because you always say something and then say you don't want to talk about it. But it does give them job security because people believe, oh, there's all this scary stuff going on. Thank God we have cops to protect us. That's absolutely the case. And another thing is they do profit off of making drugs illegal because if you have never looked into this stuff, there's books by, I think David Hathaway wrote his own book about this, but lots of DEA agents who are not DEA agents anymore have written all kinds of books about.
Is that the guy who did the video series on how the drug war, like he was a cop, a former cop, and he
no.
No, okay.
That's another
because and then the crazy thing is cops themselves, like especially people who used to be in the drug enforcement the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency for the federal government, have actually come out and said it's a fraud, basically. So like you don't even have to believe us. You can go and listen to like former drug enforcement agents telling the public it's one big fraud.
David Hathaway doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, yeah.
He doesn't even know how to do simple. He doesn't know how to do simple accounting. You can look at the numbers yourself. The government spends $200 billion a year, both in lost tax revenue and expenditure fighting the drug war. And I already told you, I put that into perspective. That's a year. And let's just take this.
You just don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea how much money they're making in South America alone.
He's interpreting the fact that. Why don't you put him on hold for a second? So he's basically saying because the government loses money. Well, here's the thing: the government, whenever it spends money, it's losing money. But somebody's making money off it. When we say the government is profiting from it, we don't mean that like it's making the government money. Somebody is benefiting from it. And
exactly, somebody is benefiting from using the thing called the government, and that's what he never understands. That's exactly what I told him about war. He's always saying, "Oh, you're doing the broken window fallacy by saying that the government wants war because they profit." But who manufactures the? They are making money. The people involved in it are making money at the cost of like the entire nation losing money.
Yep.
It's exactly what you are saying, Mr. Penguin.
It's kind of like this. It's like saying,
people manufacturing
people often say like corporations, they make billions of dollars, and that's sort of true, but it's not exactly, because it's the shareholders who benefit, right? So it's the investors. Now, that's not the case with government, in that or at least we as a voting population are not shareholders of the government. So we're not profiting, but there are lots of corporations and their shareholders who are profiting off of the taxes that you are paying, because they are getting contracts to provide the services, or they are providing their labor in the case of law enforcement, and getting a paycheck from that.
And put the cherry on top of all of this, they just print more money.
Right, which is another form of theft, in that it takes money. It reduces, by reducing the value of the dollar, it's taking money out of your pocket. Basically meaning the more they print, the less the money that you continue to hold is worth. So if you hold $100 for a year as opposed to spending it right away, you will have lost anywhere. This depends on how they do the math, but it's anywhere between 2 to 3%, and it's as high as 18% if you use some of the older systems for doing the calculation. They've sort of redone the math and the algorithms that they use to calculate that, in order to sort of hide the fact that basically it's really, really, really dumb to hold dollars, because you're not gonna make it, even with like saving. I'm trying to think what they call interest, I guess, with savings accounts. You're losing more money than you're gaining from the interest in like a savings account, if you were to put your dollars into a savings account. So
you're losing your value of that money.
Right. So basically what you're supposed to do, and people who understand like economics and things like this, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to invest those dollars, because the dollars aren't worth anything, into something that is actually worth something and is going to go up in value.
Or hold its value.
Whether that's going to be a stock, or it's going to be like a corporation, or it's going to be like physical goods, like in a business. That's basically what it comes down to.
Yep. So I mean, we answered his thoughts. He already has 2 topics, so I'm going to drop Skeeter. Thank you for the call, Skeeter. I want to get more into this article. This woman, I want to know how this law made her job more dangerous as a sex worker, as an escort. She also describes it as. So we started off talking about how she said whenever her phone rang 100 times a day, it sounded like liberation to her, because if you think about it, if you go from, it's the 90s or something, and you have to walk the streets and just hope that the type of person audacious enough to stop and get a prostitute on the side of the road in the darkness and in a car is going to be a good person. You probably experience a lot of abuse that way. Plenty of prostitutes have had people have sex with them and not pay them and stuff like that. But she was able to be choosy, because she didn't say what year this was, but there used to be a website called Backpage.com. So when that came out, she would be able to be choosy. If there was someone she was not interested in, somebody maybe being rude to her on the phone, well, she doesn't have to take them as a client.
Yep.
And she said that they were typically respectful. And she said they had more regard for my well-being and boundaries than most of the men in my personal life. They were lonely and they were grateful. They paid for what I asked for without complaint. There was one client I saw once a week whose wife lived in his home country, so I guess his wife was another country away. He was melancholic and hungry for human connection. Once, when he was about to leave, he asked, "Can I take you out sometime, like to dinner on a real date? I want to get to know you as a person." I smiled warmly and wordlessly walked him to the door. I'm familiar with concerns about my safety, my agency, my choices. I've been told for decades that I'm being exploited, that by making sex work illegal, by banning commercial transactions between consenting adults, the government is trying to protect me. This suggests I shouldn't have control over how I use my body. This presumes that I should find sex work demeaning when in fact it can be lucrative and exhilarating.
I mean, doesn't this sound so insulting too?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
like as if women cannot protect themselves, right? Like, and I'm not like, I get where like some women are coming from, saying that kind of thing, but like at the same time, it's like, it's like there's men who can't protect themselves either. It's not like this exclusive domain of women.
That's the thing. Like maybe you could even say most, like a huge majority of women wouldn't be cut out for it. I would never do it. I can't see myself ever doing it. I am not the type of person that would. I feel like I need more protection in my life. Like I wouldn't be that want to do.
Yeah, sure.
Be put in a vulnerable position like that. But
you don't have the nerves for it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
there are women
yeah.
out there who are tough, like more tough than the average man. Or just, if that's not the type of trait it takes, there are women out there who have the traits for it. Everybody is different.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea that, so there was this girl, and it's very strange because she acts, the thing that is a bit concerning is this girl I'm about to describe, not the one in this article, she gets really sad about it right after and said that it was like intense and...
After having sex with a guy
she
for
had
money?
sex with 100 men for money. Or to make a video. In not just like it throughout her life, but in a day. I know, yeah.
How do you have sex 100 times in a day?
That was a perfect moment because he took a drink of water water all
yes.
looked like he was gonna like spit his water. But,
not quite, but almost.
Yeah, didn't spit.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so she went viral online for this, which is probably the main goal. But she was like crying afterwards and stuff. So obviously she wasn't as tough as she said she was, and maybe
thought she was.
Yeah, thought
yeah.
she was.
I mean,
before.
it sounds like a situation where you may have wanted to stop if you were having doubts or questions about this. What was it? Was it some sort of like
record thing?
Record thing she was going for? Okay.
And like making money by filming it and everything.
Okay.
But she's like been a sex worker for a while, like a porn star, I'm pretty sure.
She probably was worn out. I mean, the sheer amount of
the physical
aspect of it probably wore her out. I wonder if it seems unlikely that if she was used to it and into it and regularly doing it, that it would have probably like, if it wasn't for this, it would have caused her to like feel sad or something like that. It sounds like something that would be probably more likely just because of the sheer volume of I could just think of like even like I don't know if you've ever gotten like too little sleep. I kind of think of it would probably be something along those lines where it's like you just want to cry. If somebody starts yelling at you, it's like it has nothing to do with anything, but the lack of sleep or the emotion. I don't know if emotional toll is
exhausting.
Really exhausting. Yeah, the exhaustion of it.
That's a good way to look at it, but I was just kind of setting the stage. That's why this woman went kind of viral a couple weeks ago, and so many women on Twitter and the internet in general were saying it doesn't matter if she consented. It's exploitation, and somebody needs to save her from herself.
How is it exploitation if she agreed to it and she continued to do it and nobody was forcing her to continue when she didn't want to, when she wanted to stop? How is that exploitation? That just seems a little absurd. I mean, did somebody go up to her and say, when she was super desperate or something and be like, oh, do this? Like, it doesn't sound like it. She was already making money from the sex work, right?
Yeah,
so
she
I don't know. This just seems kind of ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. The thing is, like,
call it exploitation.
You can say, oh, I feel sorry for her because she might have some kind of like issues where she feels bad about herself, like all the things that you commonly say about people who do those things. It doesn't sound like this woman that we're reading the article about has those kind of problems. She says it's exhilarating.
This seems more of an issue, a societal issue, and I've always thought this in terms of like sex work. I think this is more of a mental issue with society than it is with like actual sex work. It's just like the fact that people look down on it and such, and it's like
that's what it is. All these women just wanted a moment to be performative about how I I would never do this, and like I'm
right, like
much
as if
better
you're
than
somehow
her.
better than her. Like
Right.
that's so. I mean, talk about like.
And I'm a hero. I would rescue her.
Yeah, that's just
From
like such a messed up mentality. Just
Like, aren't people allowed to make even mistakes in their own life that end up harming them in their psyche? Like it's possible I took a job in my life that was too difficult for me, and I'm not saying like sex work related.
I understand.
Yeah, like I'm not cut out to be a waitress. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And it is if
yeah.
I would even gained like actual trauma from it, like, oh, people were mean to me. Does someone need to come and save me from myself from that choice?
I know, right?
No?
Right. That's exactly it. It's like, and you can end up, whenever you deal with any kind of customer service related jobs, you're gonna end up dealing with people who are cruel and awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, not everybody can handle that. Am I being exploited after I chose to do that and I didn't quit? Like no, you if you have a choice, you're not talking about a situation where somebody is forcing you. That might be exploitation. This is not exploitation. She was not forced.
Exactly. I'm gonna look it up really fast. The definition exactly of exploitation, because ever since that came up, I've been wondering what's the exact definition to.
Yeah, they're going to say it's something like take advantage of somebody who's vulnerable, I think. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit of an extreme statement to say she was taken advantage of.
Right.
Just because she went into it voluntarily, it sounds like, and she was already doing it. It's not like somebody had to convince her to do something that she wouldn't have otherwise done.
She was already doing it, exactly.
Right, like, yeah.
So taking advantage is one of the top similar words that pops up, and it says the action or act of, sorry, Ian is messaging me and it's actually making noise every time, but if I mute it, I'm going to miss all his calls tomorrow. So it says the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work. So, for example...
This is so arbitrary. What does unfairly mean?
That
right?
is so arbitrary, right. So her mother, and this is like a bit scandalous and even a bit strange, it feels like, but her mother is her manager, so a lot of people were saying her mother was exploiting her because her mother probably made money for being her manager, but like that's what managers do in general. Like you don't say like, oh, Britney's. Oh, okay, wait, that's a bad example, a horrible example actually.
Yeah,
but,
that probably was exploitation there.
Yeah, because she was like mentally ill and did not want to do the job, and then they just forced her to work when she didn't want to anymore. Britney Spears. But if any willing pop star out there has a manager that gets them gigs and photo shoots, etc., and no one goes and says, oh, they're exploiting her, if it's a fair price, and besides they agreed to the contract.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's unfair contracts out
people
there.
need to stand up for themselves, I think, and it's like you don't get to blame somebody else because you failed to stand up for yourself. The only person who ever other than maybe your mother or something like that, there's nobody who's ever going to stand up for you in your life. You have to stand up for yourself. And you really only have yourself to blame if you don't.
Yeah, it's not like even though this woman's mother was her manager, you could even say her mother was, hey, you really need to do this. It's going to make you a lot of money and make me a lot of money. Even if that's happening, she still is an adult with the ability to stop it. And also the other thing is she didn't express saying she didn't want to do it. And in fact, how I said she was crying afterwards? Yep. She's going to do it again, but times 10.
Oh my God. How is this? I don't even know if this is like humanly possible, right?
I'm
like at some
saying.
point it becomes like, okay, are you actually having sex?
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if it's some kind of a gimmick. Like if they don't actually like have a video for it, it seems like it's possibly a gimmick.
I only have experiences as a guy, but I personally could not do it that many times, right? Like maybe it's different from a woman's perspective, but like I can't even imagine doing it more than like I don't even know, like I don't even think I could do it a dozen times. Like there's not enough
time in the day. I mean,
it's not about time. It's about exhaustion. I guess it's sort of an issue of exhaustion.
But when it comes to 1,000 guys,
isn't able to. As for a man, the body isn't able to produce it.
Well, that's kind of the thing. In her case, there's 1,000 men, so that wouldn't run into as a problem. But the other thing is like there's a. I'm just not going to get into it on the air, but there is.
We got to be careful a little bit here.
there is a thing that goes along with what you're saying on the feminine side, and it's not just like, oh, women are just like always possible to do things with. You'd have to be like somewhat forcing stuff, I feel like. I wonder if anybody's reading between the lines there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. So I would. This is what I would imagine. I would imagine that it would become, even if there's not like a technical limit for a woman, I would imagine there would be a point of exhaustion, because like sex is like, it's work, like it's not something that's like easy to. I mean, it's easy, but it's not like. It gets exhausting the longer it goes on.
It definitely doesn't take zero energy to do.
Right.
And times 1,000. Okay, I didn't really even want to talk about that girl on the air, because it's just like I have to see it on Twitter every day anyway, and it's like I really almost think it could be fake, because there's like they did a documentary about it and they show like men's feet lining up and stuff, but they don't show the act. I don't know if there's like a porn video for the act. I have no idea. Not gonna watch it either way.
Yeah, 100 that's a lot. That's a heck of a lot. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can be like in and out or something, and maybe make it happen, like happen or something. But like, oh man.
But it must not just be in and out, because I don't know if we're allowed to say it on there, but because she said it took like 18 hours for the 100 guys. So if it took 18 hours for the 100 guys, how is she going to do 1,000 in a day? How's that even possible?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Sounds like she's actually doing it, maybe. Because like 18 hours, that's a lot of time. I mean, 18 hours, it doesn't take that long to I mean, most guys, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I mean, maybe even less than that, like, right? Like, so. Yeah.
I don't really know the answer to that, but
like 2 an hour at least. You probably do at least 2 an hour. So what's that? 18. So it's like
that's the thing. Like
50. That would be at least 50. So she's doing like one every like.
You don't have to finish with
like
every
12.5 minutes. So yeah, that sounds like it's plausible to do in 18 hours.
Yeah, you probably do more than 2 an hour if you're not like finishing with.
And that's not in and out. That's like actually doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, yeah.
And anyways, there's a lot to say about that chick. And the thing is, it brings up all these emotions in people, and even in me, it kind of brings up this like kind of like disgust. I can't help it. It's just like it's kind of like wow. And it's because it's natural.
When you say
for humans,
disgust, you mean like it's gross?
Yes, because it's like
I'd agree with you on that one.
As humans, this is what pops into my brain. It's like, how would that feel? What would that be like if it was me? And to me, it sounds kind of disgusting.
Dirty,
gross.
But
that doesn't mean that I have any kind of power over somebody else to do make them not do something that I find disgusting. This woman says it is exhilarating for her. Not that she does 100 a day, but
yeah, I would think that like if you were to get into this kind of a business, you would like want to limit your clients and be very picky and very selective and charge a pretty decent amount and that kind of thing. I can't imagine. I can definitely imagine situations where young people are being, or just people in general, women especially, are being exploited. But I have to wonder, like, I don't necessarily think that's the case most of the time. It's like, at a certain point, it's like you can save up your money and you can get out of a situation, and it's like I understand that it can be a challenge, but like. It's not really unique.
And that's one thing that
to like people in the sex industry, like every young person has to save up at some point, to either buy a house or even just get their first apartment or whatever, right?
Yeah, I felt stuck in my first hotel job when I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to move. I did it for 3.5 years because I needed to like get some situation together to move.
Yeah, and you probably at some point you saved up your money and you got out.
And I'm really like grateful for having that job at the time. It's not like they were exploiting me because I didn't feel like doing it anymore. Like I continued to want the job for the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not special to sex work like you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like people are often exploited in some sense in like when they're younger, like just working a job for minimum, almost minimum wage or close to it. But I mean, I don't know if I could feel worse for somebody who's in the sex trade, as opposed to somebody who's just working at McDonald's.
It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
If you're David, a few well-chosen words can help level the playing field with Goliath. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. Recently, I saw a Yellow Pages ad for an appliance repair company, and the headline read, "Why wait for Sears?" If you're going to the Yellow Pages, the Dead Sea Scrolls of advertising, you're ready to buy right now. So this is an attention-grabbing message. And how about the plumber whose radio ad says, "Call by noon Thursday, and we'll be there Saturday at no extra cost"? Smart guy. Most plumbing firms give their crew the weekend off. This one gives them Sunday and Monday off. In the words of a respected advertising executive, cut to the chase, make it quick, and tell me exactly what you can do for me, especially if you're looking for work. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. Trent Murray is there.
Netanyahu said Israel was prepared to act with the same force it deployed against Iran's other, quote, terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. The IDF in recent days has confirmed it's launched airstrikes on port, energy and oil facilities in Yemen that it says were controlled by the Houthis. The US Air Force has also been striking sites in the country as part of a coalition with the UK, whose mission is to try and protect international shipping in the nearby Red Sea.
US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row, meaning they will now not face the death penalty. He took the decision to ensure President-elect Donald Trump can't resume those executions when he returns to the White House next month. Meanwhile, one of Trump's initial picks for a senior cabinet position has violated not only multiple congressional rules, but several state and federal laws, according to an ethics report. Matt Gaetz, the firebrand ex-politician, is alleged to have paid a dozen or so women tens of thousands of dollars with the general expectation of sex in return, amongst them an underage student who was just 17 at the time. The report also says the former Florida congressman used illegal drugs while in office. He denies wrongdoing. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. Mangione was apprehended days after the killing in Midtown Manhattan and now faces federal charges, as Mitch McCann reports.
Luigi Mangione was led into a courtroom wearing a maroon jumper and light-coloured pants, with his wrists handcuffed and his ankles shackled. He pleaded not guilty to 11 charges, including first-degree murder, a terrorism-related offence, and 2 variations of second-degree murder. In court, the 26-year-old's lawyer spoke out against the treatment of her client, stating that his rights are being violated. She added he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping-pong ball, referring to the various state and federal charges he faces. Despite the serious nature of the charges, Mangione has gained a following online, with some even considering him a folk hero.
And we're learning more details about the man accused of killing 5 people and injuring dozens more at a Christmas market in Germany. Our Europe correspondent William Denzelo brings us more details.
Taleb al-Abdelmohsen is a Saudi national who moved to Germany in 2006 and is accused of driving a car into the Magdeburg Christmas market on Friday night. Authorities say the suspect is self-described as an ex-Muslim who's expressed right-wing and anti-immigrant views. Officials say previous tip-offs about him had been taken seriously.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, spending this week casting a gaze into our 2025 crystal ball with the help of the New York Times chief diplomatic correspondent Steve Erlinger, one of the most seasoned and nuanced observers globally. He's been talking to America's Council on Foreign Relations about the issues he will be watching over the next 12 months.
October 7th, when Hamas went and invaded Israel, was like the fall of the wall in 1989. It was completely unexpected.
Today, Israel and Gaza.
Hamas, as we know, is devastated, but what next in Gaza? The war is pretty much over there, but Israel has failed to produce the political conclusion that would let them leave. And I'm not sure they want to leave. Iran is looking quite naked. Trump wouldn't join an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear program, but he might sanction it. And also he might not bother too much if Israel moves to annex more parts of the West Bank, like the Jordan Valley. So there's a lot to play for and a lot of uncertainty, but there's no question that Israel is to some degree setting the agenda now, and Iran is very much weakened.
Tomorrow, Turkey, a huge beneficiary of the collapse of the regime of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Here's a reminder of our top stories again. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row. And Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Hire in Washington.
Scary day in Virginia after a mass shooting at the offices of Slash Forward Marketing. Management described the violent scene as incredibly inopportune if the company wants to hit its sales goals.
Gunshots were first heard around 9:40 a.m. VP of Sales Ken Miller placed the first 911 call.
911, what's your emergency?
Hello? Someone is shooting everyone at our office. Can you guys do something about this? We really can't afford to lose focus right now.
The alleged shooter, Brian Henderson, a Slash Forward employee, was described by Miller as a so-so salesman and a, quote, candy ass who obviously couldn't howl with the big dogs. Slash Forward management said the company is rattled to the core by this poorly timed shooting.
It was horrible, really. But hashtag pray for Slash Forward is trending, and we are getting tons of media exposure, so I think we're going to survive.
Donations for the families of victims are pouring into the company website, as are applications for the 18 job openings listed immediately after the shooting.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And we've been podcasting since podcasts began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45 minute show releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. This is just a new show designed from the start to be a podcast, so check it out at freetalkcast.com. And with you tonight on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
And I really want to just kind of... we've kind of set the stage here. I think me and Mr. Penguin have covered why is it that laws that are supposed to protect women or just like sex workers in general why is it that it actually makes things more dangerous for them? And this woman started to explain how before Backpage was taken down and she could use it, it made things much safer for her. She had more options. She didn't have to have, like a pimp. She worked for herself. And she expressed being irritated or, feeling like people are demeaning her for her job choice whenever they say that she needs to be protected.
The very people who are supposedly protecting her are demeaning her. This is the thing that I've always. It's so disgusting. It's disingenuous. It's malicious, and it's like, and yet so many people like agree, and it's like what is wrong with you? What is it wrong with you that you have the audacity to think that what's good or not good for some other human being when you have never even worked in that line of work in the first place?
Right. I agree. I shouldn't be able to tell someone, hey, I got to use a non-government job. I shouldn't be able to tell someone, hey, you shouldn't be an arborist or whatever it is, a person that cuts down trees, one of the most dangerous jobs, because that puts your life in danger, and somebody's not looking out for you. I feel bad for you. I'm going to take this opportunity away from you, even though in your opinion it's exhilarating and a lucrative way to make money. Well, I shouldn't be able to just take that away from someone, most likely a man in that kind of job, because I am scared for them. They're not scared.
These people who advocate to criminalize sex work, they must really hate men because they're not advocating for the ban on what do you call them? Arborists,
I think.
Is I would try. There's another name for the people who cut down the trees. I can't think of it. Woodchuck, not woodchuck.
Lumberjacks.
Lumberjacks. Yeah. So actually, interestingly enough, I know
or loggers. Sorry, go ahead.
I know a couple, at least one person, maybe more than one person, even who are lumberjacks, I guess, or people who cut down trees for a living. So yeah, but nobody's crying over them. I mean, it's like. There are jobs that are dangerous, and
mostly men are doing them.
Yeah, and they're jobs that need to get done often, but they're dangerous, and I just don't see, by comparison, these are not dangerous jobs by comparison, but the jobs that people think are dangerous are often not that dangerous. Being a cop is actually a pretty safe job.
Yeah, and then they get so many protections because they want to act like their job is so much worse.
They're scared of being spit on, and it's like, okay, if that's the worst thing that happens to you in your job, you do not have a dangerous job.
Yeah, nurses get spit on, and kicked and verbally abused.
Yeah, people in the medical field probably get a lot worse, treatment, and
they don't get to put a bag over their patients' heads.
No, yeah. There's it's I on the one hand, I feel like the medical world has done a poor job, especially lately when it comes to providing service. But at the same time, I can see where they're coming. I can imagine where they're coming from and how come they're in that situation. And part of it is I think because the medical world has basically restricted the number of people who can enter the profession arbitrarily, and it has caused it's basically caused their want for money basically has caused the problem in the first place, and I'm not talking necessarily about the nurses and so forth, but certainly with the doctors, they're graduating way fewer. They have been for 30, 40 years or whatever, way fewer doctors than there are both. Well, at least now that there's need for, and it was done basically this and are capable of doing that job was what I'm trying to say, right? So there are plenty of intelligent guys wanting to become doctors, but they're not graduating enough of them, or they're not allowing enough of them to enter the med schools in the first place. So,
yep. But I don't think it comes from a place of, we feel sorry for these people.
No, it comes down to money, dollars and cents. If there's fewer people working in the medical field, they make more money. They can charge more, right? And, when you do that for 30, 40, 50 years or whatever, I don't know exactly how long it's been going on for, but it's been going on for a while. You end up, after a certain point, not having enough people in the field to to take care of the population.
And then they go to the government like, we need to fix this problem that we created.
Yeah, it's literally a self-induced problem in that particular instance.
Another way that they do it is just by saying, oh, you can only be a doctor if you have these particular sets of beliefs. I can never remember their name. It's like the AMA, the American Medical Association. The American Medical Association. I think that's their name.
Yeah.
It came along in the early 1900s, and they decided what doctors can even believe and practice. So they almost didn't allow chiropractors to exist, but chiropractors are one of the groups that like fought back. They were like, no, we are a legitimate thing. But yeah, think about how high their standards were. Not everyone thought of, they didn't have all the same philosophy for health and the body as the doctors today do now. But now if a doctor is saying something that's a bit more, it doesn't matter if you disagree with it. If a doctor is saying, hey, I think aspirin cures cancer, it shouldn't matter if you disagree. There shouldn't be somebody telling him he can't operate that way. If he's failing, people are not going to go to him. But if he's successful, then he just cured cancer with aspirin.
Yeah.
But the American Medical Association won't allow doctors to practice in specific ways that they don't like. If a doctor came out and said, I'm curing cancer with aspirin over here, they're going to get shut down and like put into prison.
A lot of this is, it's not, the issue isn't, I think the argument isn't that there shouldn't be standards, and this is something I always talk about with protocols.
Yeah.
I'm not against protocols, right? Like, I believe in the protocol of stopping at red lights so that other drivers can go because their lights are green, and so we don't crash, right?
Well, what if I wanted to create my own road where we didn't have that protocol?
Well, right. I mean, so, but the point that I'm making is that there shouldn't be a law necessarily that says, something has to occur a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. There can be protocols. We can still have protocols without there being like, okay, if you don't do something correctly, that doesn't mean you get arrested for it. Right.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's sort of like that with doctors. It's like there should be standards, and there should be doctors that agree to those standards, and they then have their certificate saying, hey,
Yep.
I subscribe to this set of standards, and
Right.
they'll provide you services based on those set of standards.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. But there can also be another set of doctors that say, hey, we don't agree with these mainstream standards. We want to have our own set of standards, and they should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it really isn't that complicated of an idea.
It's not. The idea is that we can't have doctors out there doing stuff like bloodletting like they used to do in the medieval times. Am I right? We can't have but the thing is, you can have
we
that.
could. Now,
It would survive it.
I would like to think that there wouldn't be a whole lot of people, subscribing to that set of standards, but you would think that over time people would subscribe to a new set of standards, that phases out some of the older standards that don't make sense because they've learned something new. But there may still be people who want to, practice medicine based on the 1850s, standards,
right?
Or practices, and it's like, okay, well, if you want to do that and people want to, get service from you, I mean, that's up to you. It's up to you and the doctor.
The thing is, like, people aren't stupid. I think that I was.
I think a lot of people are stupid, but
I said it wouldn't. But the thing is, like, when it comes to what's good for you, what's good for yourself, a lot of people are going to understand that if something's not working for anybody, they just won't go to that doctor.
I think what it comes down to is it's not anybody else's business, right? Yeah. Like, this is your business, your decision. If you make the mistake and you go to a doctor that amputates, for whatever reason, because that's their solution to everything, and you don't need an amputation, well, it's also, that's also your own choice, right? It's
but the
your
thing
own.
Is, like, even though I think a lot of people are stupid, I still think that better choices would be made with just free markets and people making their own choices than what we have right now. What we have right now is tons of people dying. The third most common cause of death is medical malpractice. So, I agree that most people are stupid, but most people make the best decisions for themselves.
I mean, I think there's another aspect to this too, is I think people don't really understand how we learn. Most of us learn through making mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's like, the best situation I think that we have for like sort of humanity and people in general is to try and get people to make mistakes when they're younger and the risks are less, because if they don't learn early on not to do stupid stuff, they're going to end up hurting later in life when they make those stupid decisions. And it's if you lose your entire life savings at 60, right, you're going to be way worse off when you in your elderly stage, or in your elderly age, I guess, than if you lost all your savings at 20 and you learn from that mistake. Maybe, and a good example of this would be like scammers, right? You would much rather lose all your money at 20 from a scam than to learn the hard way at 60.
Yeah.
You can't make up for it at 60. You can make up
As
for it
easily.
at 20. Right, exactly. So
That's so true. And the thing is, yeah, maybe you don't want to be the person that a medical doctor makes a mistake on, but there's always somebody out there willing to, like, for it's actually the age thing is a good example. Like, if you're like much older, you don't mind a doctor trying aspirin to cure your cancer because you're like, don't have that many. And then you could be the one who that doctor figures out his method and things just get better. But if we make it illegal to treat things a certain way, we might just be sitting on the cure for cancer and not even know it because doctors aren't allowed to do things that way.
yeah, another aspect of this too is that, like, it's often like often the medical professionals are like, well, I can't do X because I would be hurting you. And it's like, well, yeah, but you don't actually have an option for me to help me. And it's like X might, the reason that you're concerned about X is because X hasn't been studied and we don't know if X works, but there's some evidence that it might work. And so it's like, okay, so the doctor won't help you at this point because they don't have a solution for you. And it's like, what is wrong with having having doctors perform procedures on people that haven't been tested, for just as an example, or have been minimally tested maybe on animals, right?
Yeah. As long as the patient consents.
Right. There's always got to be a first, right, person. And it's like, this idea that, like, when there's no other options, it's like, sure, you want to roll out those other options, before you go and do something untested maybe. But at some point, you always end up with a certain segment of the population getting to that point where it's like, okay, well, there's no other options. It's time to start doing some testing, right?
Yeah.
Get some evidence, one way or another, if something works or doesn't work.
It's a very popular situation where people die because they had a diagnosis where there's no cure, but they've heard that there is some kind of cure out there, but their government won't let them use it.
Well, and what this also does is it pushes people into basically quacks when it comes to medicine. It's like, I would much rather go to a professional who is willing to take risks, risks with me, right, than go to a quack because I have no other choice, right? At least the doctor who's willing to take risks with me, there might be a 10% chance that I survive, or 10% chance that something good comes from it, even if I don't survive. But if I go to the quack, I might only be guaranteed death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it does push people into quacks. I can totally see that by making people with just a different philosophy from the one that makes big pharma money.
Desperate people are often end up going to the quacks because they don't have any other options.
Like somebody who wants an abortion, but it's illegal, and then they go to a back alley abortion.
Yeah,
and get killed.
that's a great example. That's one reason that I'm very much in favor of I'm not in favor of people aborting, but I'm in favor of abortions being legal, is because there's worse consequences to criminalizing it.
That is exactly how
And
I
if
feel.
you
I really
actually
am not for abortion.
if you actually care about a woman's health, or just in general people's health, you should be in favor of allowing abortions, even if you don't support abortions themselves.
So we have a caller on the line. Let's go to the phones. It's Major Payne in Michigan. Major Payne, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, you're having all this conversation about sex and hookers and whatnot, and Ricky brought up that one block in Pennsylvania where there was a pot shop where all the hookers did their nightly patrolling,
Where? The thing that Ricky was saying?
Yeah,
with the watches, yeah.
There was a certain block that the hookers used to hang out on, and it had a clock shop in the middle of the block there.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, there's this guy, he walks into this clock shop, and there's a cute little girl behind the counter, much like you, Miss Bonnie. And he walks in there, and he unzips his pants, and he slaps his twigs and berries up there on the counter. Ew. And the girl steps back all aghast and says, "Sir, I'm afraid you've made a grievous mistake. This is a clock shop, not a cock shop.
Oh
He
my
says, "We're
God.
good. Put 2 hands in the-" He says, "We're good. Put 2 hands in the face on this, would you?"
Ew, it's gross. I almost think that you weren't allowed to say on the air, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is like dirty old man territory.
Dirty old man territory.
Well, it's the only clock and prostitute joke I can come up with. I'm sorry. Only one in Davy Jones's locker that I know of. That one girl that you were talking about though, that was bragging about doing it 100 times a day.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, we'd just called her a cum dumpster. I mean, you got to wring that girl out.
Oh my God. Did people do that back in the old days without making as much money as her?
I can't recall anybody ever claiming to have done it 100 times a day.
Yeah, that just seems a little over the top as
Apparently,
far as
and
reality.
I only learned this over this whole conversation being on Twitter because of this woman, but apparently there is a woman with the highest record right now, and it's in the multiple hundreds, but I don't remember the exact amount, and she was just some porn star in like maybe the early 2000s or something, so there is somebody that's done more in one day, and that's why she's planning to break the record in, I think, January with 1,000.
Oh, I thought she already broke the record.
So, no, she didn't break the record.
Okay.
I think I might have said that earlier, but I was just not thinking.
I would think if I was going to try and break the record, I wouldn't go for 1,000. Like, I would just do, okay, let's get a couple more. Yeah, as opposed to, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how much energy you've got to exhaust doing something like that. It's like, oh no, definitely not.
Yeah, it seems right on the borderline of within the realm of human possibility whether she could actually do it or not. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we did the math a little bit, and it's like, what did we say? It was something like she'd have to do one guy every like 12.5 minutes, something like that, and that actually sounds like realistic, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, she probably could do even more. I guess if they, it was a quickie. That's obviously not a quickie. 12.5 minutes is actually a pretty decent amount of time, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, well, you definitely have to have them all lined up and ready and raring to go before they hit the stall.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely a problem. Or could be a problem.
If she didn't make them all wear condoms, she would definitely, my first comment would be exactly right. She'd definitely been a cum dumpster.
Okay, I don't know if we can keep saying that.
Yeah, this is, I feel like this is definitely getting too much for radio.
Too mean. I wasn't trying to be mean to the lady, even though I did say it was like disgusting to me. It is kind of a disgusting act.
Yeah, he's being like derogatory. Yeah, degrading. Like he's degrading. That's not. I wouldn't choose to use those choice words. I think your description was much better, Bonnie, than the way he's describing these women.
But thank you for the call, Major Pain. We have another caller on the line, Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to say that I started a cactus farm.
Wow.
I started a cactus.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, the cactus garden in front of that little property where the homeless people loiter, and my neighbors found like needles and bullets and vodka bottles and trash.
Where are you hanging out?
So, okay, that's why I said I know where this is going.
Well, I'm a little lost here.
There is a cactus farm is a bit different than this. I thought she was saying she was like gainfully employed selling cactuses now, but no.
Is cactus a code word for something?
No. So
okay.
there is this little patch of grass near her house where a bunch of homeless people will stand and beg for money, and they're getting like really aggressive and rude, and she doesn't want them to stand there, so she planted cactuses in that patch of grass. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, so I have a cactus garden, and I learned there's a bunch of free cactuses all over behind the Arroyo. It's a city property. I found tons of it, and I found baby cactuses with roots on it.
Let me ask you something.
So I dug one.
Is this whose property is this that you're planting cactuses on?
It's Tragedy of the Commons.
Okay.
Well, it's a city property, so it just grows wild, and so it's for free for all. And the city don't care. And the city don't care about this property. They don't even know where it is. You know, we say this street, Monroe, and it intersects Spanish Fern, and Is it on the south, north, east, west? What's the address? Like, there's no address. Like, the city is, they have no idea where it is. Like, it's on the south side of this two-street intersection. What it was a through street. It used to be a car street, and they blocked it with a little block of street, and they planted a palm tree and a tree there, and they put some rocks over it. But it's a haven for like homeless people. Probably there was a red car, a van, obviously living in the car last night, and we're like, okay, if they're there tomorrow, that's it. We're gonna call 311, and it's homeless encampment. But for some reason, they love drinking there, and they pitched a tent over there.
Mind you, Sarah was homeless for many years.
Right. This is what kind of makes it funny too.
And is a welfare recipient.
Is 311
It's like non-emergency number
to call to report homeless people?
It's just a non-emergency police number.
Okay.
So yeah, Sarah.
I would say that would have been funny if she's calling, a number for homeless people to report homeless people,
But
and she was
that's what
homeless.
she's doing. That's what she's doing.
Right. And she's only not homeless now because of welfare.
She's on welfare, and also she just got lucky enough to find a guy to allow her to move in with her, and she has. Okay, more Free Talk Live coming up.
Free Talk Live.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving wants the federal government to get more involved in preventing kids from drinking alcohol. I'm not a fan of alcohol. In fact, I don't like it at all.
No, you don't.
I had some when I was a kid, underage. Yes, I was violating the law too. And then I stopped. And I would have to recommend to kids, hey, don't get drunk. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money.
And you get a headache.
But it's all over the place.
Sure it is.
Alcohol it's the number one drug of choice for young people. Mm-hmm. As a kid, you want to drink alcohol too, and you don't understand why it is that you can't have it unless you're 21 years old, so you go ahead and you get it anyway. And I don't care how much federal money you spend on it, MAD. It's not going to stop. I don't care how much community education, how many of your little MAD youth you get involved. It's not going to stop because kids are always going to want to get their hands on the things they're not supposed to get their hands on.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is vowing to continue airstrikes across Yemen after the country's Houthi rebel group fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv. Trent Murray is there.
Netanyahu said Israel was prepared to act with the same force it deployed against Iran's other, quote, terror groups, Hezbollah and Hamas. The IDF in recent days has confirmed it's launched airstrikes on port, energy and oil facilities in Yemen that it says were controlled by the Houthis. The US Air Force has also been striking sites in the country as part of a coalition with the UK, whose mission is to try and protect international shipping in the nearby Red Sea.
US President Joe Biden's commuted the sentences of dozens of people sitting on death row, meaning they will now not face the death penalty. He took the decision to ensure President-elect Donald Trump can't resume those executions when he returns to the White House next month. Meanwhile, one of Trump's initial picks for a senior cabinet position has violated not only multiple congressional rules, but several state and federal laws, according to an ethics report. Matt Gaetz, the firebrand ex-politician, is alleged to have paid a dozen or so women tens of thousands of dollars with the general expectation of sex in return, amongst them an underage student who was just 17 at the time. The report also says the former Florida congressman used illegal drugs while in office. He denies wrongdoing. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, has pleaded not guilty to state charges in New York. Mangione was apprehended days after the killing in Midtown Manhattan and now faces federal charges, as Mitch McCann reports.
Luigi Mangione was led into a courtroom wearing a maroon jumper and light-coloured pants, with his wrists handcuffed and his ankles shackled. He pleaded not guilty to 11 charges, including first-degree murder, a terrorism-related offence, and 2 variations of second-degree murder. In court, the 26-year-old's lawyer spoke out against the treatment of her client, stating that his rights are being violated. She added he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping-pong ball, referring to the various state and federal charges he faces. Despite the serious nature of the charges, Mangione has gained a following online, with some even considering him a folk hero.
And we're learning more details about the man accused of killing 5 people and injuring dozens more at a Christmas market in Germany. Our Europe correspondent William Denzelo brings us more details.
Taleb al-Abdelmohsen is a Saudi national who moved to Germany in 2006 and is accused of driving a car into the Magdeburg Christmas market on Friday night. Authorities say the suspect is self-described as an ex-Muslim who's expressed right-wing and anti-immigrant views. Officials say previous tip-offs about him had been taken seriously.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSA.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And I'd like to thank Edith for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Edith went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Edith and everyone who supports us. And again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. Here on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Mr. Penguin.
And we have a caller on the line, so let's get into the calls tonight. We've been talking about morality and laws and policing and homeless people. What's on your mind, David, in New Mexico?
Hey. You were talking about the Conahan the other night.
What does that mean?
Judge Conahan.
Who?
Forgot already?
Oh, the Kids for Cash guy. I don't think I used his name all that much.
Yeah. Okay. But he was actually like second fiddle to the main dude who was Chivarella, which is spelled CIA, like CIA Varela. Chivarella.
I hadn't heard of him.
And well, you should Google it while we're talking because he was actually the main dude in that case. Matter of fact, actually, I'm the one that I brought that case to Free Talk Live like whenever it happened. What was that, like 10 years ago?
I have no idea.
Probably.
Oh, when it happened? Oh, yeah. It was like 2010, I think. Sorry, I thought I was saying I have no idea when you first talked about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't here 10 years ago, so I couldn't tell you.
And I didn't know.
I was.
Well, I wasn't doing Free Talk Live, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wasn't on this planet 10 years ago. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's just be clear. You're not that young, Bonnie.
What did you say, Bonnie?
I said I wasn't on this planet 10 years ago, but I'm just kidding.
Oh, right, yeah. So
she's young, but she ain't that young.
What? 12, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I always peg you as, 12. That's like, I think that's perfect Bonnie age.
I opened up these little toys during the show, and I have my fluffy pink pen.
I saw that. What are you're showing? Who are you showing your little toys on your little camera?
I was just wondering if anyone would say anything. I wasn't specifically showing anyone, but you said you saw it. I do this thing. I have these little bags that are opaque, and you can't see into them. And they're all surprised what you're going to get. And so if I need to do a task, but I really don't want to, I let myself open one of the things as soon as I get it done. And today I went and paid my property taxes and like some other stuff. So I let myself open 2 of the little bags. And one thing I got is a tiny water bottle. And one thing I got is a little duck.
I saw that.
So I'm 12.
Yeah, see, I nailed it. Never question me.
David is always right. That's our new Free Talk Live motto.
Well, that's my motto.
We might advocate for child labor here, but we don't actually have any child laborers on the show or
child
doing hosting.
labor, but not child sex work. I just want to say that because that's been the conversation all night.
Nope, we're not going there. That is not what I was saying.
Yeah, I make sure people
don't
know that
misquote
was
me.
not what you were saying. Correct.
Yes.
Now, if somebody tries to cut that up, I can always
this
be
is
like,
exactly
"Here's the
what
full
happens
quote."
too.
Yeah,
like people
yeah.
will cut up things that we've said, and it's
I'm looking
like,
out for you.
no, that's not what was said. You literally took it from multiple conversations from multiple different shows, and then there's other people that are stupid enough to believe this, stuff that people do, and it's like, no.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go out there with like propaganda to make other people look bad, and it's so easy to make the average person believe it, but
It's really easy to make somebody look bad when they do a show every single, every day or
like
every
even
once a
people
week,
who-
even for years and years and years.
people who consent to going and being on a reality TV show,
Yeah.
and then they can't believe how they got made to look in the show because
Oh,
they
yeah.
cut together stuff, make
Yeah, I mean,
fake drama.
if you do 15 hours worth of work, you can make somebody. You can make anybody who does, if you get enough of anybody saying stuff like over a period of like 15 hours, you can make them say anything you want, or make it look like they said stuff that they didn't. And it's
not even 15 hours. I think it's more like 15 minutes.
yeah,
all the words.
it's probably not even 15 minutes, but yeah, for sure.
So Shivarella, Bonnie, you should at least take a look at it, because that was actually the main dude. So because that begs the question: if Conahan was pardoned, why not Shivarella?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you said that Shivarella was the one who did worse things. Maybe that's why. And I was gonna ask if he's still alive, or maybe died in prison. It's been 10 years.
You gonna make me Google it?
I figured you would have known since you brought it up. But then again,
Well,
it kind of seems like
then
Biden's
again-
doing things like arbitrarily. Like he just he let most of the federal prisoners on death row go this week, but
Yeah.
he let some go that actually I mean, the thing is, there's always the possibility that people were framed.
Sure.
But there's one that I heard it's pretty accepted that he killed this mother and daughter, and it's like it's not something like, oh, there's a bunch of people wanting this guy free because he obviously did nothing wrong.
I mean, so remember, commutation is not letting them go. It just means that they're not going to be put to death.
Oh yeah, that is true with death row.
I don't think what he did. Honestly, I would probably have taken it a step further and done, instead of doing the 17 out of 20 or whatever it was that he
Mhm.
commuted, I would have done the 20 out of 20. But
No, you make a great point.
I mean,
I
but
would be actually way more
Yeah.
for letting this person stay in prison the rest of their. Say they did it.
Yeah.
I would be way more for making this person stay in prison the rest of their life and just not putting them to death, because the danger of the state being able to put people to death is that innocent people could get put to death by it.
yeah, it's bad enough that there's a lot of people in prison on death row that are innocent, and it's like, and then once you factor in, it's like, okay, it's really, really bad to kill somebody like that, and it's like it's still really, really bad to throw somebody in. It's this whole idea of like, you don't want to. It's much better to let 10 bad people go than convict one innocent person, right? And it's sort of like that, and it's like, it's there's going to be some innocent people in there, so let's just at least let them have an existence and not completely destroy people's lives unnecessarily.
Yep. And the thing is, I actually think it's kind of worse to be in like a high security prison like Ross Ulbricht is in.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
If you're like a murderer on death row, you're probably in a horrible prison. If you're just like I was saying the other day, this might sound contradictory to what I was saying the other day, but those people who were saying they wanted Ian to suffer, it's like nobody's suffering in the prison camp. The lowest possible minimum security, honestly. Like, no one's really suffering.
Yeah, I think that's probably a poor choice of words, suffering. But it's certainly not a place you'd want to be, for sure. But yeah, it's actually kind of gross. Like, I don't know, did you ever hear the show where Arya described, like, what it was like to be in prison?
No.
Yeah, like, I think it was a show. I don't think it was at, like, Porkfest that she talked about it.
Was it like a free talk cast?
No, I think it was Free Talk Live. But anyway, she described it, and she like basically like bathrooms, like they would back up and stuff and overflow, and this is in the camp, and they wouldn't fix it. Their solution is like basically to take the bathroom out, and so there's even fewer stalls, but the stalls that remain are like I think she said they were full of mold, and you can't kill mold without. I'm trying to think what it was. There's something fluoride. What's the thing that kills
Chlorine,
molds?
bleach?
Bleach, right? You need bleach to kill mold. Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently you do. And maybe I did know that, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. You need that, and they won't give the prisoners bleach, and I guess the prisoners have to clean the bathrooms, so like you can't kill the mold. So the bathrooms, there's not enough bathrooms for way too many, prisoners, and it's like. And it's moldy and gross and actually dangerous. And and it's So.
Wow. I wonder if it's still moldy there right now. Ian's there. It makes me worried.
Yeah, it almost certainly is. He's at the same camp that Aria was at, and they don't fix things when you report them. They just like say, oh, you can't use this anymore. And it's like, okay, well, what happens when you stop and you have to get rid of all of the bathrooms? It's like that would be an inhumane condition. So I don't know what they would do. I think they just wouldn't shut the rest of the bathrooms down, and they would just be like, oh, well, it's on the schedule for 2 years from now to get it fixed, or the next time there's money from the federal government, which will probably be, a decade from now. So.
One really kind of weird and funny thing that happened at the prison that Ian's at is that there's like this building, like a shack, like maybe a storage building kind of behind the prison. And they saw a bunch of contractors come one day and start fixing the roof, because the roof, it's been like, there's nothing inside the building. And the roof had a big hole in it. And so people came and were putting in tons of hours of work, working on that roof. And they got to they just have like a couple steps left kind of, and you can still see that like plastic, that has like, it's kind of like a step and repeat. It has a bunch of logos all over it that's underneath a lot of construction stuff. It was like to that level, and maybe they even got half of it actually done all the way. And
it's like the waterproofing and the such,
And one day they just never came back, and now the waterproofing stuff like flows in the wind, and it just has stayed broken. And
Why
we're
does
just
that
like,
surprise me?
that is such a weird thing. It's like, what happened? Like, did the government screw over the workers, and or did they pay them too soon and then they decided to flee?
You know what the funny thing about this is there is the protection is there for the building for the most part, but the problem is that it's not intended to be used permanently like that. So at some point, if they don't actually finish the job, it will become a problem probably. But yeah, they probably have a year or something like that, or two, to actually get the actual siding up before it becomes a problem. I think I've never been in the construction business, but that's kind of my understanding of it.
So yeah, it seems like probably just inefficiency in government at least going on. And so I believe you that the bathroom is probably still moldy. I bet Ian probably hasn't noticed. He just seems to just be like, everything's fine,
Oh yeah, Bob would make it sound like it was a resort and a holiday retreat and
I think Ian just wouldn't notice. Like he's kind of like in his head.
That is definitely is a good description of Ian. I mean, this guy, you can't get this guy down, man.
He's just content, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he'll protest stuff and he'll do everything to change the system for the better, but at the end of the day, like getting him down is really, really, I don't even know if it's possible. I've never seen Ian in like a bad mood or any kind of like, I don't know, like
yeah, he's never been like the type of husband or boyfriend where it's like, oh, he had a bad day, I gotta not say anything to him, I gotta walk on eggshells because he's gonna be in a bad mood. Like, no, he doesn't have those days ever. I feel like most men probably feel like every woman's gotta know that all men have those days, I'm just gonna act like that. But no, Ian doesn't.
Yeah. No, I think I think he's definitely a rarity in the men department, and yeah, I mean, I'm usually a pretty positive person myself, and it's like, but I can think of a day over the last decade where I've not been good, and it's like, Ian, doubtful.
Yeah. So I feel like we changed the subject a lot somehow from what David was talking about. Basically, yeah, that the guy who got pardoned, I think is the right word for what happened to this guy, because he walked free. Commuted his sentence. He wasn't
wait, so
on
wait,
death row.
I'm sorry, let's back 1 second. So Joe Biden pardoned one of these murderers?
So he pardoned like 15 murderers that were on death row, but he also
commuted sentences
of like 1,499 people.
Okay. Well, Jesus, 15. Actually, that's pretty impressive if he pardoned 15 people. There's probably was even more of them he could have pardoned, I suspect.
Yeah, it was I think there was 24 or something like that total that he could have pardoned, or that are on death row, and he didn't pardon all of them. I would really like to know his reasoning.
Well, and again,
I can tell you his reason.
What? You go for it.
Go ahead.
The 3 whose sentences were not commuted from execution to life imprisonment were the 3 highly political cases: the white kid that killed the black church attendees, was the name Dylan Roof in South Carolina, and the dude, I remember his name, that shot the Jewish people in the Jewish synagogue.
Interesting.
Didn't pardon them, and then what was the third one? There was a third one, and it was the Boston City Marathon bomber little brother.
So the media made it out as if it was terrorism. So it doesn't sound like it's terrorism. It sounds like politics.
That was the Boston. The Jewish synagogue. Well, they can all 3 be labeled as terrorism.
Well,
but they're
when a shooting is a whole bunch of people.
Right. The way they define terrorism, I think, is kind of stupid. But okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question on?
Yeah, I don't think it does actually, because I think what we were talking about was not the commutation of sentences. We were talking about the pardons. So yeah, I mean, the pardons basically. The problem is the reason that there's a lot of people being pardoned, and this is actually unusual that a president will do this, especially when it comes to murder charges, is the reason he can do it, period, is because he's not going to be reelected, right? So he can do things that he otherwise wouldn't be able to do. But the reason also is that given that set of circumstances, he can actually pardon people who should probably never have been convicted in the first place and are innocent. And the thing is, there probably were more than 15 out of the 220 or whatever people that were convicted of murder that could have and should have been pardoned. But at least some number of people who were innocent probably got pardoned, which is good. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, but I will say I think it sounds like this is probably something that should have happened, and there probably should be a lot more people who receive pardons. Does anybody know if other people have been pardoned that besides murderers by Joe Biden?
Yeah, the 100 or 1,499. Well, the thing is, I feel like you're making a big difference between pardon and commutation. I don't remember the difference right now, but
again, pardoning somebody says you can walk free, you get out of jail.
Yeah,
commutation means you don't have to serve your sentence.
I think that on
the death sentence anyway.
The death row people, they got commuted then, and then
commuted to life in prison.
The 1,499 people, they walked free.
Okay, so that's a pardon, and those people, I'm guessing those were not murder cases?
Yeah, they were mostly non-violent things, but then there was also this guy, I guess it depends on how you look at it, the Kids for Cash thing. He was basically allowing people to go to juveniles to go to prisons, for-profit prisons, when there wasn't actually evidence, in order to get a kickback from the private prisons.
This is a judge that did this, right?
Yes, sorry, a judge.
Oh, yeah, this is not a good group of people. Then maybe.
Exactly, it's such a bad thing.
So he went and he pardoned the wrong group of people.
Exactly, a bunch of people who actually had victims to their crimes.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I wanted to say I got respect for what Joe Biden did, but now you're making it sound like it probably was not something respectable. It was probably something that he was pardoning his friends. Oh man, that's so unfortunate.
How many people did Biden pardon?
1,000.
It was a lot.
499.
Yeah.
8,027.
Oh wait,
it was even more than that. Wow.
He did more more recently or something. He did more than just the one. Did he do multiple groups?
I don't know. If the internet is not lying to me, it's 8,027 according to this figure.
Interesting. I would be really curious.
Maybe he did it all throughout his whole career.
No. This is something that you would do at the end of a presidential term where you weren't going to run for office afterward. Because it doesn't. The problem is that if you pardon somebody and then they go and do something like kill somebody, you're not going to get reacted. It doesn't look good on your record.
Yeah, but he's going to die. Even though this is his first.
Oh, Joe Biden's definitely going to be dead soon. But that's beside the point. In this case, he's not.
So the answer was how many commutations did he give to federal death row prisoners was 37 of them. But where did these other thousands of people come from? Because there was this one, chunk, there was this one group that he commuted the sentence of nearly 1,500 people. It was all but one, so it was 1,499. That was in the news.
Here is one answer to one of your questions. Let me go back. Having to do with, for instance, the commutation of the sentence of Conahan. His sentence was commuted as part of a blanket commutation for federal prisoners who had, at the time of the commutations, the blanket commutations, been already, because of COVID, allowed to serve the remainder of their sentence as home confinement. So if you were a federal prisoner during COVID, where you were let out of prison to home confinement, that's what qualified you to get a commutation from Biden.
Oh wow. Okay. I mean, this is interesting. So this is This is definitely a twist on this. What I was thinking it was. So this doesn't sound like a terrible thing, probably, in that the reality is the sentences people receive are too harsh. Because of basically the drug war. A lot of it goes back to the 90s and tough on crime. And basically, like, things that used to be like, oh, you get a little bit of time and then you'd be released. Well, now you're spending the rest of your life in a cage over. And so that doesn't seem like to be a terrible thing, that we're kind of going back to the way things used to be when they were saner back in the day. But it definitely puts a different perspective on it, because it says it's not a political thing. This is just I mean, there may have been people who were benefited from politics, which is why they were released for the COVID stuff. But
and I just got some more information on your original question for this call, David. This is from mustreadalaska.com, and it says that he commuted the sentence of a pair of Pennsylvania judges who had sent nearly 1,500 juveniles to for-profit detention centers. And it says former Judge Michael Conahan was the ringleader, along with Judge Mark Civarella. So they both got commutations.
So that answers that question. Because I didn't know if Civarella was commuted as well.
But still, I almost think that this 8,027 number is wrong. I don't see how it's possible. He brings up in this article, the thing is, like, I've only seen it on this one website. I tried to figure out exactly where that list, because I got the same, like, when I googled it, I got the same little table as you did that said 8,027. It's just from this one mustreadalaska.com guy, and everybody else is saying 1,400, 1,000, like in the 1,500s. So seems wrong.
Even if it was 8,000, it wouldn't be beyond belief. The U.S. is the most, I think it's either the first or maybe it's like the second after China, something like this, number of people in prisons in the world.
Wow, this is really nice. Jimmy Carter pardoned and commuted 566 plus 200,000 blanket pardons for draft dodgers from the Vietnam War. I never knew that.
That's respectable.
Yeah, that's respectable.
Yeah. Pardoning people for not doing what their conscience says and not killing people is definitely
I think
definitely a good thing.
The source for that 8,000 number is Wikipedia. It says, as of December 2024, Democratic President Joe Biden has pardoned, commuted, or rescinded more than 8,000 convictions, including the following, and then they break it down.
How many did Joe Biden rescind sentences? Because that has to be where the number's getting that high.
It'll be interesting to see what Trump does when he gets back into office, because he's got competition now from Joe Biden. See how many people he can pardon or commute their sentences.
The thing is, like, I think that Wikipedia has it wrong because of that one stupid website. Because I'm like, can't find it anywhere else on the internet. Because that table is exactly where I got the 8,000 number from.
You're probably right, Bonnie, but it's also the case that a lot of a lot of websites they're just republishing the same story.
That's the thing. I think that one of them, News from Alaska or whatever it was, site accidentally put 8,027. I don't know how you accidentally do that. And then Wikipedia is just like, oh, we dragged it off that website and I don't know why I'd be the first one they got it from, but I just don't see the answer otherwise. freetalklive.com. I guess if you want to write the number in your phone, 603-283-6160, but Free Talk Live is over for tonight. You can go to freetalklive.com for more. We'll have a pre-recorded show tomorrow for you, and we'll be back live on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas and peace.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it. Wait on the counter. Now.
Wait a minute.
Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!